Chapter 40. At this moment, Yunjian was already sitting at her desk. She picked up a language textbook and started reading an ancient poem aloud. It was as if her somersault was just an easy warm-up exercise for her. The students who came to school early in the morning had yet to take out their textbooks for the morning reading. Moreover, the teachers were not patrolling the classroom at this time. Most of the students who woke up early in the morning wanted to slack off. As a result, Yunjian's light and melodious recitation became a voice that stood out in the classroom. Yuan Ingjun stood in place. His handsome face slowly darkened and his expression turned ugly. He came today because he was confident that he could win over Yunjian. However, whether it was Yunjian's somersault or her reading voice now, it all told him that she was ignoring him. Completely ignoring him. People tended to like what they could not have. It was the same for Yuan Ingjun. He clenched his teeth inwardly and swore that he would get Yunjian one day. However, Yuan Ingjun was too ashamed to stay in class 6. He turned around without a word and ran out of the classroom. It was finally quiet. Yunjian pursed her lips slightly. She reached out to put away her language textbook and threw it on the desk. Yunjian actually chased away the school hunk. The students who had arrived early in the class had witnessed the scene and looked at Yunjian in shock. They believed that the news would spread throughout the school soon. Of course, this was a story for later. Not long after the incident, the bell for the morning self-study period rang. Lu Fian came late today and only rushed into the classroom after the bell rang. Mu Xiang really did not come to school. She probably remembered what happened last night and was too scared to come to school for the time being. In the next few days, Yunjian did not encounter any troublesome situations and Yuan Ingjun did not come looking for her. Qin Yiru's hand was gradually recovering and was almost fully recovered. Of course, this was because the surgery was done well and the recovery was fast. Qin Yiru was discharged from the hospital on Friday night. When she got home, she tidied up her things and sighed. Ever since her accident, Yungang hadn't come home to see her even once. She didn't even know where he had been for the past few days. However, Qin Yiru had already given up on Yungang. Xiao Jian, it's Saturday tomorrow. Make a trip to Longmen City on my behalf and send a blanket to your brother. It's almost October. The weather is fluctuating between hot and cold these days. It turns cold when it rains. Your brother didn't bring a thick blanket with him in school. At dinner time, Qin Yiru picked up a piece of meat for Yunjian, while chewing a mouthful of vegetables, and said to Yunjian. Yunjian put the meat back into Qin Yiru's bowl and said to her, "Mom, you can have this meat yourself. It's fat, and I don't like it. I'll go to the city tomorrow. Help brother send the blanket over. Rest well at home. You're not allowed to go to work either. Your injury hasn't healed yet. I'll think of a way to earn money." If she did not say that, Qin Yiru could not bear to eat the meat herself. After all, the market price of pork was very high now. Qin Yiru was indeed planning to go back to work in the factory tomorrow after she was discharged today. After all, the household expenses were high. Where would the money come from if she was idle? Yunjian had yet to pass the 10,000 yuan to Qin Yiru. She did not tell her either because she was afraid of scaring her. As for Yunjian saying that she could earn money, Qin Yiru only took it as a joke. Nevertheless, Qin Yiru felt warmth from her daughter's words. Chapter 41. It was Saturday the next day. Yunjian woke up early as usual and went home to wash up after running one round in Xinjiang town. It was around 8 in the morning when she took the blanket that Qin Yiru had packed into a woven bag last night and boarded the bus to Longmen City. The bus took an hour and a half to reach Longmen City. Yun Jian got off the bus and took the number 31 bus that went straight to DE Senior High School. DE Senior High School was the best high school in Longmen City with the best teachers. The school covered an area of 152 mu, which was huge. At the same time, DE Senior High School's cutoff score was rather high. There were only a handful of students in Xinjiang town who could reach the cutoff score. Yun-yi was one of them. On weekends, DE Senior High School's entrance was accessible as some students would go home on weekends. There were plenty of students who stayed in the dormitory as well. Yun Jian went straight to Yun-yi's classroom. Students who could enroll in DE Senior High School were generally among the best in Longmen City. These students had one thing in common: they were very conscientious in their studies. Therefore, even if there were no classes on weekends and no teachers were watching over them, these students who stayed in school would study by themselves in the classroom. When Yun Jian came to Yun Yi's classroom, she saw her elder brother doing his homework seriously in the classroom. There were plenty of other students studying by themselves as well. Hey, look, there's a girl at the door. She's so pretty. Is she looking for someone in our class? There were a few boys who were playing cards out of boredom in the classroom. One of them, who was sitting opposite the door, called out when he saw Yun Jian. His shout made everyone in the classroom look up at Yun Jian. When Yun looked up and saw her younger sister, she stood up in delight and walked out. Xiao Jian, why are you here? Yun-yi was obviously excited as she asked Yun Jian in surprise. Gu, Mom asked me to bring you a blanket. The cold air is coming soon. She's worried that you'll catch a cold, Yun Jian said as she placed the heavy woven bag in front of her. Yun-yi nodded and took the heavy woven bag from Yun Jian as she asked, how's Mom's injury? Mom's been discharged from the hospital. She's recovering well, Yun Jian answered Yun-yi with a sweet smile. Yun-yi's frown eased a little at her answer. Hey, little beauty, where did you come from? TSK, you're not Yun-yi's little girlfriend, are you? Another boy who walked out of the classroom suddenly. He placed his hand on Yun Jian's shoulder habitually and could not help teasing Yun. The boy's features were distinct and his looks were comparable to Yun-yi's. Don't spout nonsense. This is my younger sister. Yun-yi slapped the boy's hand off her shoulder and explained to him before turning to introduce the boy to Yun Jian. He's Su Haokol, my bro. He's never serious. Xiao Jian, don't stoop to his level. Yun Jian nodded and pressed her lips into a smile. This person was her brother's friend in school. Heh heh heh, Su Haokol chuckled and greeted Yun Jian seriously. Xiao Jian, it's rare for you to come to the city. I'll take you around the city first. Let's go home after lunch, Yun-yi told Yun Jian after they chatted for a while. Chapter 42. I'm coming too. Su Haokol added quickly when he heard that Yun-yi was bringing Yun Jian to shop downtown, afraid that Yun-yi and the rest would leave him behind. Thus, the trio left the school and took bus number 1 to the largest city center in Longmen City. After they got off the bus, Yun-yi did not know that Yun Jian had been here last week. He looked at his younger sister and said softly, Xiao Jian, I didn't make it in time to bring you here when something happened to Mom last time. Buy whatever you want today. Yun-yi's pocket money was saved from meals. He could not bear to spend it on himself, but for her, he was generous. If she really bought a lot of toys that girls liked, Yun-yi might have to eat a lot of steamed buns and plain water for the next few days. Yun Jian's heart warmed as she shook her head at Yun-yi. Go, we're just shopping. I don't need to buy anything. She had money, but it was inappropriate to take it out. Nevertheless, she had to improve her family's condition legitimately. This process would not take long. She wanted Yun-yi and Qin Yiro to live a good life. Aya, what are you two waiting for? Yuni, Mimi, buy whatever you want. It's my treat today. Su Haokol was naturally aware of Yuni and Yunjian's family background. He spoke generously and put an arm around Yunyi's shoulder to lead the way. Su Haokol came from a well-to-do family and was usually carefree, but he never looked down on the poor. After strolling around the city center, Su Haokol pulled Yuni and Yunjian to a posh hotel. We agreed that it's my treat today. Otherwise, you guys are looking down on me. Su Haokol said as he brought Yuni and Yunjian to the posh hotel. Su Haokol was truly a good friend. He often had to take turns treating with Yuni. When it was Yunyi's turn, they would buy snacks from small stalls. When it was Su Haokol's turn to treat himself, he insisted on dragging Yuni to a posh hotel. Such friends were hard to come by. The posh restaurant had a poetic name, Qingyun Hotel. Qingyun Hotel was a 4-star hotel. There were only a handful of such hotels in Longmen City. A meal here could cost half a month of a regular employee's salary. It was apparent that Su Haokol came from a wealthy family. It was just that even Yuni did not know what Su Haokol's family did. Entering the hotel, Su Haokol ordered a small private room and the waiter led Yunjian and her friends to the second floor. The small private room was at the east corner of the second floor. When Yunjian and her friends followed the waiter through the private rooms, they passed by a large private room. Zhang Taijun and his wife, Qin Junlan, were sitting in the large private room with wine glasses in hand, chatting enthusiastically with their clients. Suddenly, Qin Junlan's eyes lit up and she saw Yunjian and her friends through the door that was not closed when the waiter came in to deliver the dishes. Yunjian. Yunyi. Why are both of you here? When Qin Junlan saw the 3 silhouettes, she shot up from her seat and walked to the door in her high heels. Yunjian had just reached the door of the large private room when she heard Qin Junlan's sharp and familiar voice. Her eyes narrowed as she stopped in her tracks and turned to look. She then saw Qin Junlan stomping towards her aggressively. Why are you guys here? There's no free lunch here. Can you guys afford it? Are you guys here to dine and dash? Qin Junlan made a conclusion on her own and spoke loudly to Yunjian and Yuni in front of everyone. Her voice was loud as if she was afraid that no one could hear her. Chapter 43. Yunjian had always known that her mother's biological sister, Qin Junlan's husband, Zhang Taijun, who was also her uncle in name, ran a small business. That was the truth. Qin Junlan was indeed here with her husband to discuss business with a client. They would not have chosen this 4-star hotel if it were not for the fact that the client today was rather important. After all, even with their family's financial situation, they could not afford to have a meal here. Clearly, Qin Junlan subconsciously thought that her sister's family had always been poor. They were so poor that they could not even pay for their children's school fees and could not even return the money they borrowed from her. However, how could she not be surprised to see Yunjian and Yuni having a meal in such a high-class hotel today? How could they have extra money to spend at such a high-class place? To hell with it. Hence, Qin Junlan stopped Yunjian and the rest in an aggressive tone. Why can't we be here? Are you saying that we can't stay at a place where you can? Yunjian scoffed. She really did not like this auntie in name. Look at you, child. How dare you talk back to your own auntie? How disrespectful. I really don't know how Yira taught you. With your family's situation, how could they let the two of you come here to eat and drink? Qin Junlan said angrily. There was only one reason for Qin Junlan's words. She was telling Yunjian in a roundabout way that her family still owed her money. How dare they come here to eat and drink when they had not returned the money? However, considering that there were outsiders here and Qin Junlan was someone who cared about her reputation, she gritted her teeth and looked at Yunjian and Yuni. In the next second, she pretended to be a good auntie and said earnestly, "It's not that I'm criticizing you, but it's not easy for your mothers to earn money. The money that they worked so hard to earn is not for you to squander like this." She hadn't even paid back the money she owed her family. "I'm Yunyi's friend. Today's meal is on me. Yunyi doesn't spend a single cent. Yunyi's aunt, don't talk nonsense." Su Haokol immediately stood up for Yunyi. Anyone who wasn't an idiot could tell how much Qin Junlan hated Yunyi and Yunjian. Su Haokol was already unhappy with Qin Junlan's tone. Now, he even helped Yunyi and Yunjian to fight back. "You?" Qin Junlan shifted her gaze from Yunjian and Yunyi to Su Haokol. Su Haokol was dressed well and did not look like a poor kid from the slums. Moreover, Su Haokol had just said that he was treating Yunjian and Yunyi to this meal. One had to know that it was not cheap to have a meal in this place. Su Haokol was about the same age as Yunyi. He must be a rich family's young master to be able to treat them here so casually. Qin Junlan, who was about to throw a tantrum, softened immediately. Considering that the young master from a rich family was Yunyi's friend, her attitude changed immediately. Xiao Jian, Xiao Yi, I was just giving you a few words just now. After all, it's not easy for your mothers to earn money. You have to understand her." Qin Junlan's attitude toward Yunjian and Yunyi changed from being tough to being submissive. If Yunyi were to become friends with some rich young master, he would have a bright future ahead of him. Perhaps, as an aunt, she could even benefit from it. Chapter 44. We don't need outsiders to poke their noses into our family matters. "I will protect my mother," Yunjian said, looking at Qin Junlan. The outsider, who was pointing fingers and gossiping was, of course, Qin Junlan. Qin Junlan heard Yunjian scolding her for being a busybody. She wanted to throw a tantrum, but she held it in because of her previous concerns. However, she felt indignant. Qin Junlan wanted to say something more. At this moment, Yunjian suddenly felt the change in the atmosphere. Tsk. Tisk. Yunjian heard two soft sounds that were undetectable by normal people. As a secret agent in her previous life, Yunjian was the only survivor who survived by stepping on countless bodies. She killed all the children who were captured to be trained by the organization and survived. At that time, she was in the organization. If she was not careful, she would be killed by her companions. If she wanted to live, she had to kill her companions and friends. She had no other choice. Therefore, Yunjian, who survived in that environment, was very sensitive to such soft sounds that normal people would not be able to detect. Silenced bullets. There were snipers lying in ambush. Yunjian, Yunyi, and Su Haokol were standing at the door of the private room, right in the middle of the corridor. The sound of the silenced bullets came from the open window in the private room. Without hesitation, Yunjian suddenly stretched out her leg and gave Qin Junlan a hard kick. Qin Junlan was in so much pain that she fell to the ground before she could react. At the same time, Yunjian's hands were not idle. She pulled Yunyi to the ground with one hand and pushed Su Haokol to the ground with the other while she dodged to the side. The two silenced bullets slid past her cheeks, one in front and one behind. They hit the white wall behind her, leaving two large holes. Yunjian, who had dodged the two silenced bullets, narrowed her eyes. Now that she had been reborn, she did not have any enemies, so the sniper's target was definitely not her. Judging from the direction of the sniper's shot, the person he really wanted to kill was him, Su Haokol. The three people who were pushed to the ground by Yunjian had no idea what had just happened. The bullets fired from the silenced sniper rifle only made a slight noise. Those who weren't experts wouldn't be able to hear it at all. In other words, even if he was hit, he wouldn't even know how he died. Qin Junlan, who had been pushed by Yunjian, stood up. She couldn't take it anymore. She thought that Yunjian had pushed her on purpose to embarrass herself. She stood up and shouted at Yunjian, "Yunjian, what are you doing? How dare you hit your own aunt? How rude. Do you have any morals?" Yunyi scratched her head and stood up, not knowing what was going on. She looked at her sister who had pushed her for no reason. Su Haokol seemed to have realized something. He had just stood up when he heard Yunjian shouting at them, "There's a sniper ambush here. Hurry up and leave." Sniper. It wasn't the first time they had heard of this term. Sniper, wasn't that the type of gunman that often appeared in movies? Hearing Yunjian's words, Qin Junlan wanted to scream at her. Where did the sniper come from? Why would there be a sniper out of nowhere? You kids have watched too many movies, haven't you? Are you hallucinating? Nonsense. Qin Junlan paused at the last word. She couldn't say anything else. This was because there were two big holes in the white wall in front of Qin Junlan. Two bright bullets had pierced through the white wall and were stuck in the middle. If Yunjian hadn't tripped Qin Junlan just now, the first bullet would have pierced through Qin Junlan's head. Ah! Ah! Qin Junlan suddenly realized this and screamed in fright. Her whole body started to tremble violently. Oh God, if that bullet had pierced through her head, would she still be alive? Yunyi and Su Haokol also noticed the two bullets that had pierced through the white wall. Both of them looked at Yunjian in disbelief. There really were snipers around. If Yunjian hadn't reacted quickly and pushed them down, the consequences would have been unimaginable, but as her brother, Yunyi knew very well what kind of person Yunjian was. His sister actually, at this moment, they heard Yunjian's anxious voice again. Hurry up and leave. Find a place to hide. Hurry. Chapter 45. At this moment, Qin Junlan, Zhang Taijun, and their big clients all stood up and ran faster than anyone else. They were even mumbling, "Murder, murder. A sniper is going to kill." All the waiters, guests, and chefs of Tranquil Harmony Hotel ran for their lives when they heard the news. Rumors were the scariest but also the most effective. How could work be more important than one's life? Yunjian and the other two were already standing behind a wall, out of the sniper's range. Both of you, leave quickly. I'm the one they want to kill. I can't be a burden to you guys, Su Haokol said solemnly to Yunyi and Yunjian with clenched fists. He did not bother to hide it then, flicking the corner of his shirt to pull out a pistol from his belt. Ksha, you. Yunyi stared at Su Haokol in shock, unable to believe that his best buddy would carry a pistol with him. Su Haokol chuckled dryly and looked at Yunyi with determination to die, saying, I'm sorry I lied to you before. I'm actually the son of Dragon Head Gang's boss. This identity meant that his future would be extraordinary. Dragon Head Gang was the top mafia group in Longmen City's underground black market, controlling the underground trade of Longmen City. It was not surprising that Su Haokol could pull out a gun as the son of Dragon Head Gang's boss. Yunyi was stunned. He did not expect his best buddy to have such a background. It was no wonder that Su Haokol had never mentioned his family background to him. Leave quickly. This has nothing to do with you guys. There's no need to drag you guys into this. Su Haokol roared at Yunyi, prepared to die. Can you walk out of here alive alone? The sniper over there has his eyes on you. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and remained still, finally speaking up after a long period of silence. Su Haokol was the sniper's target. As long as he was exposed to the sniper's shooting range, he would die. Even if Su Haokol had some skills, he was not a match for the sniper. It was only then that Su Haokol and Yunyi turned their gazes to Yunjian. How could she still say something like this at this moment? Even so, I can't be a burden to you guys. Su Haokol looked at Yunjian and said. Yun-yi was his bro. He could not let him and his sister get involved in dangerous matters because of him. Yunjian studied Su Haokol again. She said calmly, her eyelashes fluttering. Very well. Give me the gun. Based on what Su Haokol said just now, she, Yunjian, would save him. This. Su Haokol's eyes bulged and he was stunned. Give her the gun. She knows how to use it. That was impossible. This is a gun. Yuni looked at Yunjian in surprise. Yunjian stepped forward and snatched the gun from Su Haokol's hands. She held it in her hands and played with it. It's a Beretta handgun made in Italy. It has an effective shooting range of 50 meters. That's enough, Yunjian said to herself as she played with the gun. However, when these words entered Su Hao's ears, it was like a huge wave had been swept up, causing him to be extremely shocked. She actually recognized the type of gun that this was. Judging from how she handled it, it didn't seem like it was her first time seeing a gun. She looked more like a veteran who had been playing with guns for years. How old was she? She was Yun-yi's sister. How could she have come into contact with a gun? Just as Su Haokol and Yun-yi were shocked, Yunjian suddenly told them to stay here and don't come out. Then, she rolled out of the door where the sniper could shoot her. Was she crazy? If she went out, she would be shot to death by the sniper. Or rather, an even crazier idea appeared in Su Haokol and Yun-yi's minds. Could it be that Yunjian wanted to use this gun to kill the sniper? Chapter 46. In the distance, from the window of the private room, a sniper in black tights held a sniper rifle as his dark eyes peered at Yunjian's petite figure. Here's a suicide mission. The sniper's pupils contracted before he chuckled and set up his sniper rifle, aiming at where Yunjian was. TSS, TSS, TSS. 3 consecutive shots were fired at Yunjian's location from a high vantage point. The speed of the bullets was indiscernible to the naked eye, but it was not a problem for Yunjian. Xiao Jian. Yuni wanted to dash out to protect her younger sister without a second thought, but it was Su Haokol who pulled Yuni back in the end. Su Haokol wanted to step out as well. After all, he was the cause of all this. However, looking at Yunjian's sharp and nimble movements, he hesitated when he recalled that it was Yunjian who pulled them away from the sniper's first round of shooting. If Yunjian was not capable, how could she be so sensitive to the bullets and pull them away from them? On the other hand, once he was exposed to the sniper, he would probably be shot to death before he could even put up a fight. If that happened, he and Yuni would become Yunjian's burden if they went out. On the other hand, Yunjian did not retreat against the 3 bullets. She rolled on the ground with her pistol and dodged the bullets before she stood up and continued to approach the window. Until she was completely exposed to the sniper. Theoretically, it would be easier for the sniper to kill her. Would that really be the outcome though? Was she not afraid of dying? Or was she completely confident? Su Haokol frowned. When Yun-yi saw the 3 bullets grazing past her younger sister Yunjian again and burrowing 3 large holes in the ground, she was so worried that her heart almost stopped beating. What surprised him more, however, was that Xiao Jian had managed to evade the volley of bullets. This was a sniper's barrage of bullets, it wasn't child's play. F***CK. The sniper who was hiding in the best spot could not help cursing when he saw how Yunjian dodged his strafing shot easily and stood at the spot where it was easiest for him to shoot her without regard for her life. This girl was not even 18 yet, was she not? She had dodged his shot just now. More importantly, she dared to expose herself right in front of him. Was she implying that he could not kill her? Enraged, the sniper refocused and pulled the wrench with his index finger, ready to end Yunjian. Swish! A gunshot that the sniper could not be more familiar with rang out. He looked up abruptly to see the girl standing by the window putting away her pistol and flashing him a sly smile. With a plop, the sniper collapsed to the ground in the next second, dead from a headshot. Yunjian had only used one shot to kill the sniper in a second. Su Haozhe was standing in the dark, but he could clearly see what was going on here. He suppressed the fear in his heart, and his entire body trembled in shock. He had not seen wrongly just now. One shot. Yunjian had killed the sniper from afar with a raise of her hand. Killing a sniper from high up in the air. That was inconceivable. Su Haokol was sure that he had never heard of such a thing before. Bang, headshot. Putting down her pistol, Yunjian pressed her lips together as an eerie smirk spread across her face. There was no trace of the terror that one would feel after killing someone. On the contrary, Su Haokol and Yunyi actually saw a trace of naturalness in Yunjian's expression, as if she was such a person to begin with. Yunyi breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Yunjian was fine, but she frowned slightly. Chapter 47. Right now, Yunyi was deeply suspicious of Yunjian. Ever since he returned home the last time, Xiao Jian had been behaving strangely. In addition to the phone call he made in the restaurant in Xinjiang town, as well as the strange martial arts skills he displayed later on. If it were not for the fact that his younger sister still looked the same, he would have suspected that she was a different person. In spite of it, Yunyi held it in and did not ask. He chose to believe in his younger sister. Even if there were any variables, Xiao Jian would tell him herself one day. Yunjian noticed Yunyi's change in mentality as well, but she did not point it out, choosing to skip the explanation as well. She was truly speechless, unable to explain it to Yunyi. If she did not do anything just now, was she supposed to wait for her death? That was not her style. Yunjian then turned to Su Haokol and asked, "Dragon Head Gang has taken care of the sniper's body, right?" "Ah. Yes." Su Haokol was still in shock and quickly answered Yunjian when he snapped back to reality. Yunjian nodded with a small smile. "But it looks like we won't be able to enjoy this delicacy now." Su Haokol and Yunyi were stunned again. "What do you mean?" Su Haokol asked in bewilderment. "Someone called the police." "The police are here." "They're downstairs," Yunjian replied. "How did you know?" Su Haokol exclaimed again. They did not hear anything from downstairs. Yunjian was here too, how would she know what was going on downstairs? "I'll listen." Yunjian's lips curled into a beautiful smile before she continued, "Follow me. We'll leave from the back door here." Then, she led the way forward. Until they left the four-star hotel's back door, Su Haokol and Yunyi were still in a daze. Why is Yunjian so familiar with the back door here? Su Haokol was a regular here. Even he did not know where the back door of this hotel was. How did Yunjian know the route so clearly? If Yunjian knew what these two people were thinking, she would definitely laugh. The reason why her detection, anti-tracking, and concealment abilities were so powerful was because of her strong perception. For example, if she encountered an unexpected situation, how should she hide, escape, and counterattack? These were all necessary lessons for an agent. Therefore, from the moment she stepped into this hotel, she had already seen through everything around her. The three of them did not expect to encounter the situation just now, but in the end, Su Haokol still insisted on treating them. After lunch, Yunjian took the bus home in the afternoon. She had nothing to do in Longmen City anyway. Of course, there were some things that could not be rushed. For example, she had mentioned before that she wanted to start a business. When Yun Jian returned home at around 3:30 p.m., she saw Li Xiangyi standing at the door in a daze. Startled, Yun Jian went up to him. "Wow, Yun Jian, you're finally home. I finally found your house, but I heard from your neighbor that your family isn't home. I've been waiting for you here for almost half an hour." Li Xiangyi could not help grumbling when he saw Yun Jian. No one was home. Qin Yiru was not home. Yun Jian was taken aback. Did she go to work at the textile factory with her injury? "Why are you looking for me?" Yun Jian looked at Li Xiangyi and asked curiously. Chapter 48. A welcome party. Yun Jian was stunned. Was it to welcome her into their basketball team? Yun Jian was stunned because it was the first time someone would hold such a welcome party to welcome her into a team. "Hey, what's wrong?" Li Xiangyi waved his hand to greet Yun Jian when he saw her lack of response. "Go ahead." Yun Jian indicated that she was still listening. "That's settled then. At 6:00 tonight, you can meet everyone at the bar in our town." Li Xiangyi chuckled and left after saying his goodbyes. Yun Jian nodded and moved her lips. After Li Xiangyi left, Yun Jian went home, but when she opened the door, Yun Jian frowned. The living room should have been neat and tidy, but when she opened the door, it looked like a burglar had ransacked the place. The trash in the trash can on the floor was all over the place, while the drawers and cabinets were all opened and rummaged through. From the living room to the kitchen and then to the bedroom, the mess was unbearable. What had happened at home when she was in Longmen City? Few, hurried footsteps came from the door as a girl panting heavily stepped through the door and stood in front of Yun Jian. Yun Jian saw the girl's face at the same time. She was pretty and looked like a well-behaved girl. She was about 13 or 14 years old and was very petite. In her memory, the girl was her uncle's daughter, Yun Xiaoya. She rarely interacted with the original owner of her body, so why was she here today? Yun Xiaoya huffed and puffed. Ignoring the fact that she was out of breath from running, she cried out to Yun Jian, "Cousin, bad news. Second uncle has a bad woman outside and she's here today. She's at the hall now and she's fighting with auntie." Yun Xiaoya was Yun Jian's uncle's daughter, and the uncle she mentioned was Yun Jian's current father, Yun Gang. The auntie she mentioned was naturally Qin Yiru. Yun Jian's eyelid twitched. Had Qin Yiru not gone to work in the textile factory? This was not the point. The point was that Yun Gang had a mistress. As the father of 2 children, Yun Gang had run away after failing to repay the loan he borrowed from the loan shark some time ago and dumped all his debts to his family. He even had a mistress outside. More importantly, he had disappeared for a few days and the mistress had come to his house to beat up his mother. Yun Jian was enraged. She told Yun Xiaoya, "Let's go," and walked out of the house, running to the hall, without even closing the door. At the entrance to the People's Hall, the townspeople crowded round the door of the Great Hall to watch the spectacle. In the middle of the doorway, a woman dressed rather fashionably grabbed Qin Yiru's hair with a pair of hands painted with thick nail polish, scolding and beating her. The surrounding people tried to pull this woman away, but this woman's strength was very strong, and they couldn't pull her away. Qin Yiru's scalp was almost torn off by the woman. Her hand was still recovering, and Qin Yiru was weak, so she was no match for the woman. She could only let her hair be pulled and pulled. "Old woman. Old woman. Bah, you look like this. You must be blind. How dare you fight with me?" The mistress pulled Qin Yiru's hair and spat out saliva. She looked very self-righteous. The onlookers shook their heads and sighed. This was what it meant to be a mistress. How could she be so self-righteous? When Yun Jian arrived, this was what she saw. The mistress was pulling Qin Yiru's hair and pulling Qin Yiru back and forth. A few people tried to stop the mistress, but they were pushed away. Yunjian's rage surged to her head when she saw what happened. It was the first time she was so pissed. The scene was chaotic and out of control. Yunjian's figure flashed and she arrived in front of the mistress. Everyone was shocked. Who was this girl who suddenly appeared? Before they could react, Yunjian took a few steps forward. She arrived in front of the menacing mistress and flung her hand. Slap! A slap landed on the mistress's face. This slap was very strong. The mistress was forced to let go of Qin Yiru's hair. Her face was almost deformed by Yunjian's slap. The mistress fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked. The mistress was very strong. She could still hold Qin Yiru's hair even when so many people tried to pull her away. In the end, this young girl who had appeared out of nowhere had sent him flying. Her face was almost deformed. Chapter 49. Ah! The mistress who was flung away shrieked and fell to the ground, unable to recover for a long time. Yunjian went up to help Qin Yiru up from the ground, only to see huge teardrops falling from Qin Yiru's wrinkled face. Qin Yiru was motionless as Yunjian helped her up, looking lost. "Mom," Yunjian called out softly, her heart aching. She did not know how to comfort someone, so she hugged her mother who was in despair and placed her hand on Qin Yiru's back to pat her a few times to comfort her. Yunjian knew that to Qin Yiru, everything Yungang had done before was tolerable. The only thing she could not tolerate was Yungang having an affair with a woman. Otherwise, Qin Yiru would have divorced Yungang a long time ago and lived alone. The most important reason why Qin Yiru had persisted in not getting a divorce all these years was for the sake of her children. She did not want her children to be fatherless. No matter how much of a jerk Yungang was, he had never had an affair. This was also the reason why Qin Yiru had held herself back from getting a divorce and living with Yungang. The couple had lost all feelings for each other a long time ago. Their children were their only tie. Xiao Jian, mommy's suffering. Qin Yiru stammered as she trembled. Mom, it's my turn to protect you from now on. Yunjian patted Qin Yiru's back and said firmly. The people who were watching the show whispered to each other as more and more people gathered in front of the hall to watch the show. Xiao Jian. Sis Yiru. A middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s appeared in front of Yunjian and called out cautiously. The man was Yunjian's father, Yunjing, who was also Yunjian's uncle. The Yun family had 2 sons. The eldest son was Yunjing. He was a simple and honest man, a true farmer. The second son, Yungang, was Yunjian's father. Yungang was not a stable person. Not only did he gamble, but he also drank too much. Even Yunjing himself felt that it was hard for Qin Yiru to marry his younger brother Yungang. Uncle. Yunjian could feel that Qin Yiru was no longer as agitated as before, but she still gently comforted Qin Yiru. She looked at the middle-aged man in front of her who was dressed like a villager and called out softly. In her memory, although this uncle of hers wasn't completely devoted to her family, he wasn't bad either. At least when he saw Qin Yiru being beaten up by the mistress, Yunjing went to help Qin Yiru. However, the mistress was too strong, he couldn't pull her away. Yunjing responded and sighed softly. Hey, the mistress is running away. If he couldn't win, he would run. How could there be such a thing? A talkative woman's voice came from the group of people who were watching the show. Yunjian supported Qin Yiru. When she turned her head, she saw that the mistress had already climbed up from the ground. She grabbed her bag and was about to leave quietly. She wanted to leave just like that after hitting her mother. Just when everyone thought that the mistress would run away, they suddenly saw Yunjian supporting Qin Yiro to bend down and pick up a small stone from the ground. What was she doing? Everyone present, including Yunjiang and Yun Xiaoya, was stunned. In Yunjiang's memory, his niece had always been a timid person. But just now, she actually went forward and slapped the mistress away. Just when everyone present was puzzled, they saw Yunjian pick up the small stone and throw it in the direction of the mistress. Unlike an ordinary stone, this seemingly harmless pebble was actually as sharp as a sword. Later, everyone heard a plop sound coming from the other side. Then, the mistress knelt on the ground with a thud. The small stone that Yunjian threw also fell beside the mistress. A small stone actually had such power that it directly made a person kneel on the ground. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They saw that Yunjian had already helped Qin Yiro to a nearby bench and walked over. You hit my mother and smashed my house. If you don't explain clearly, you still want to leave here alive. Yunjian's indifferent voice sounded. Although it was indifferent, those who were familiar with Yunjian would know that this was the expression of Yunjian's anger. Chapter 50. You want to leave this place alive if you don't explain yourself. Yunjian's nonchalant but arrogant words echoed in everyone's ears. Should such words really come from an underage girl? If Yunjian had said that in the beginning, no one present would have taken it seriously. In spite of it, just recalling what Yunjian had done just now was enough to send chills down the spines of the crowd. Bah, damn girl, what are you talking about? Who are you trying to scare? I've been scared since I was young. Do you think I'm scared of you? The mistress was not a pushover to begin with. Thinking that she could not get anything out of this, she wanted to escape amidst the chaos. She did not expect Yunjian to attack her again, so her temper flared as she yelled at Yunjian. The mistress was actually from Xinjiang town. She was around 30 years old but looked like she was in her 20s due to good maintenance. The reason why she followed Yungang was because Yungang was a gambler. He didn't lose money every time he went to the casino. Sometimes, Yungang would win hundreds or thousands of dollars, earning a huge sum of money. Of course, Yungang would never bring home the money he won from the casino. He gave it all to his mistress to buy branded bags, eat well, and wear well, living like an immortal. That was why the mistress followed Yungang. Qin Yiro still thought that Yungang had never won money in the casino. Little did she know that the money he won was used to keep a mistress. Of course, the mistress was here today because Yungang went missing or because he had borrowed money from loan sharks. Seeing that her money tree was gone, she came to Qin Yiro's house to kick up a fuss. She even asked for compensation but Qin Yiro refused to give it to her. As a result, they got into an argument and ended up in this situation. Yunjian ignored the mistress's aggressive words and continued to walk to where the mistress was. Xiao Jian, what are you doing? Yunjiang could not help asking when he saw Yunjian heading there. His heart was thumping. He had a feeling that something was about to happen. The mistress didn't realize the danger at all. Instead, she tidied up her hair and waved her hand. She looked at Yunjian with disdain and continued to mock her. Your mother is such an old woman. She can't stop her husband from cheating on her. How can she blame me? Let me tell you, an old and ugly woman like your mother, even if she died, it wouldn't be enough. Ah. The last word was stuck in the mistress's mouth. Yunjian strode forward and stood in front of the mistress in a flash. He grabbed Little Three's hair fiercely and dragged Little Three along with him. Ah! What are you doing? Wretched girl, wretched wretch. Let go of your filthy hands. Little Three tried to resist several times, but found that she couldn't even touch the corner of Yunjian's clothes. She didn't realize that Yunjian's silence represented the arrival of her misfortune, and her mouth became even more poisonous. You pulled out a lot of my mother's hair just now. Now, give it back. Yunjian's low voice traveled to everyone's ears as she grabbed little Three's hair with one hand. Everyone shuddered again. In the next second, a horrifying scene unfolded before their eyes. Yunjian held little Three with one hand and grabbed little Three's hair with the other, pulling it out harshly. Like pulling wool, Yunjian plucked a bunch of hair from little Three's scalp. After Yunjian was done, she continued to pull out another bunch. Chapter 51. The mistress who was lying on the floor was bald and her black hair was scattered all over the floor. Her scalp was bleeding profusely. In spite of it, no one stepped forward. Since ancient times, mistresses had always been an abominable existence. Moreover, this mistress knew that she was a mistress, but she still had the nerve to be so aggressive. Other than Qin Yiru, who was still drowning in grief and did not notice Yunjian's actions, everyone else looked at Yunjian with goosebumps. Some of them even turned away, not daring to look at the gory scene. From now on, this is the outcome of whoever dares to bully my mom. Yunjian was terrifyingly silent as she spoke calmly and pointed at the unconscious mistress on the floor. Also, if any one of you dares to spread rumors about what happened today, I guarantee that she'll never be able to open her mouth again. You can try if you don't believe me. Yunjian's deep gaze scanned the people who were watching the show. Yungang had a mistress and the mistress came to ask for money boldly and beat up the original wife. Yunjian knew that if she did not say that, it would not be long before these gossipy women who were watching the show would spread the story with exaggerated details. She would not tolerate such a thing happening. Perhaps it was because Yunjian was too ruthless just now, no one dared to make a sound. There was only one thought in everyone's mind. This girl was only 15 years old and she did such a cruel thing without batting an eyelid. Not long after, the group of people who were watching the show dispersed without a word. Yunzheng hesitated for a while before he went to Yunjian. Looking at his niece who had become a stranger to him, he pursed his lips and said, "Xiao Jian, you." The words that were on the tip of his tongue were hesitant. He could not possibly persuade Yunjian to abandon her father, could he? He was her biological younger brother after all. "Uncle, thank you for asking Xiaoya to inform me just now. I'll bring my mom home first." Yunjian eased the awkward atmosphere and walked over to help Qin Yiru, who was sitting on the bench, up. Then they slowly walked home. Yungang was the guide of everything, but now he ran away alone and threw all the chores to Qin Yiru. Yunjian thought that she could not let her mother live with such a man. He couldn't cut it, and it was a mess. This matter should have been settled long ago. After returning home, Yunjian helped Qin Yiru sit on the bench and poured a cup of hot water for her. Qin Yiru didn't say anything along the way, which made Yunjian's heart ache for a while. A few days ago, something happened to Qin Yiru. As Yungang's husband, no one knew where he went. Now, a mistress came to find him. He even owed a huge debt, yet he ran away without a trace. Although Yunjian had paid off the debt, a person like him was not worthy of being her father. At night, Yunjian made dinner for Qin Yiru and left at 5:50 p.m. sharp. She still remembered Li Xiangyi's invitation. In spite of it, she was worried about Qin Yiru's current state. "Mom, I'm going out for a while. Remember to eat dinner. Your body is yours, don't make life difficult for yourself." Yunjian went to Qin Yiru and tucked a few strands of Qin Yiru's white hair behind her ear, telling her seriously. "Go, Xiao Jian. I'm fine, I'm really fine." Qin Yiru opened her pale lips and forced the words out. To prevent Yunjian from worrying, she even forced a smile that was uglier than crying. Chapter 52. Xinjiang Town was considered a large town in the countryside of Longmen City. There were many towns in the countryside of Longmen City, but Xinjiang Town was one of the top ones among them. Among these towns, Xinjiang Town's new rock bar was the first of its kind in history. At the entrance of the rock bar, when Yun Jian came out of her house, it was already 5:50 p.m. and her house was not far from the rock bar. So when he arrived, it was exactly 6:00, not a minute later. "Hey, Yun Jian, over here." Seeing Li Xiangyi waving at her from afar, Yun Jian walked over. "You're on time." Wu Kuei looked at his watch and teased Yun Jian. "I'm not late, 6:00. Yun Jian pressed her lips together lightly. All right. Li Xiangyi chuckled and pulled a tall and handsome boy over to introduce him to Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, this is our basketball team's captain, Wen Rui. Let's get to know each other." Wen Rui was the captain of the basketball team and had not appeared before. Wen Rui was a sunny boy just by looking at him. He was in the prime of his youth and looked radiant. "Hello." Wen Rui greeted first. Hello. I'm Yun Jian." Yun Jian did not beat around the bush. Ha, everyone's here now. Why are we still standing at the entrance? Let's go in." Li Xiangyi pushed and shoved his way into the rock bar with a group of boys from the basketball team. "Let's go in too," Wen Rui said with an elegant smile. It was hard to imagine that such a sunny boy with a scholarly air would be the captain of the school's basketball team. However, the strange things Yun Jian had seen paled in comparison to this. The group entered the bar. Like its name, the rock bar had a rock theme and the interior was decorated in European and American colors. There were not many people at the bar at this time, but there would still be some. After all, there were so many towns nearby, and Xinjiang Town was the only town with a bar. The people from other towns had to come here to relax. In order to welcome Yun Jian to the basketball team, Li Xiangyi had already made arrangements and booked a private room. After the group entered the bar, the waiter led them to the private room. Just as they passed by the bar counter, a group of delinquents suddenly appeared and blocked the path of Yun Jian and the others. One of the boys standing at the front, dressed like a rich playboy, looked at Wen Rui lazily and said with bad intentions, "Yo, Wen Rui, I heard that there's a new member in your basketball team. And it's a woman." When Wen Rui saw this guy, his footsteps clearly paused. When enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. Wen Rui also looked at the boy with hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhang Jun, don't mess things up. I don't want to argue with you guys today." The boy named Zhang Jun was from Dongjiang Town, a neighboring town to Xinjiang Town. At the same time, Zhang Jun was also in the third year of junior high school in Dongjiang Town. Coincidentally, this Zhang Jun was the captain of Dongjiang Town's basketball team. A few days later, Xinjiang Town would be having a friendly basketball match with another school. They would be playing against Dongjiang Town's basketball team. Of course, there were not that many coincidences in the world. This Zhang Jun probably knew that they were holding a welcome party for Yun Jian and purposely came here to join in the fun. "Ayoyo, what are you talking about? Wen Rui, look at us. We just want to see the new member of your basketball team. Do you have to be so petty?" Zhang Jun looked like a ruffian as he stuck his neck out and sized up Yun Jian. Chapter 53. The reason why Zhang Jun brought his men to surround Wen Rui and the rest was to see how good the girl who had just joined their basketball team was. He thought that the girl would either be big or strong enough to be invited to join the team. He did not expect her to be such a skinny little girl. Hence, Zhang Jun looked at Yun Jian and could not help but mock her. How could such a thin and weak little girl play basketball? "Zhang Jun, don't stir up trouble. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude to you. Wu Kui clenched his fist. If Li Xiangyi had not held him back, he would have really fought with Zhang Jun. Zhang Jun snorted when he did that. Fine, I won't talk much with you guys today. Let's rely on our own abilities on the basketball court. Zhang Jun snorted in a weird tone. He raised his head arrogantly and looked at Yun Jian and the rest from the corner of his eyes. You said it yourself. Zhang, don't go back on your words. Wu Kui clenched his fist when he heard that. Actually, when Rui, Wu Kui, Li Xiangyi, and the rest could tell that Zhang Jun was looking down on Yun Jian. However, no one tried to clear Yun Jian's name. That was because Yun Jian was their basketball team's trump card. Of course, they had to wait until the crucial moment to reveal their trump card. Let Zhang Jun be cocky. He won't be able to be cocky for long. Brothers, let's go. Zhang Jun thought that with Yun Jian's burden, his team's chances of winning would be 90%. Hence, he said that to his men. The group turned around and walked out of the rock and roll bar proudly. Don't care about them. Rascal, let them be cocky for a few more days. Wu Kui spat in the direction where Zhang Jun and the rest left and shouted. Yun Jian had not made a sound since just now, watching quietly with a smirk on her lips. The appearance of Zhang Jun and the rest did not seem to cause any dissatisfaction among the basketball team members. On the contrary, they were even more fired up. They had all seen Yun Jian's skills. Yun Jian looked thin and weak, but when she threw the ball, she threw it directly into the basketball hoop from a distance of 30 to 40 meters. This wasn't something that could be done by just anyone. Therefore, apart from the excitement of the basketball match, everyone was also looking forward to it. After entering the exclusive room of the rock bar, their ears finally quieted down. Yun Jian sat in the private room of the bar. Her sitting posture was lazy, but it revealed a breathtaking beauty. Although it was held to welcome Yun Jian into the basketball team, it was just a simple gathering for everyone to sit down and catch up. In order to liven up the atmosphere, when Rui even asked for a few bottles of higher-grade wine from the waiter. He was very considerate and thought that girls probably wouldn't drink, so he asked for a big bottle of orange juice for Yun Jian. The waiter quickly brought it over. When Rui placed the orange juice in front of Yun Jian and said, "You're a girl. Drink this." Yun Jian did not reach out to take the bottle of orange juice. She looked at Wen Rui and smiled. Since it's for fun, how can I spoil everyone's fun? I can drink wine. Moreover, she had the constitution of not getting drunk even after 1,000 cups. Wen Rui was stunned. He thought that most girls did not know how to drink, or that they would get drunk after drinking, so he asked for juice for Yun Jian. He did not expect Yun Jian to drink. Since Yun Jian said so, he did not hesitate and poured a glass for Yun Jian. Everyone saw Yun Jian put the glass to her nose and tasted it carefully. She said softly, 1992 Lafite red wine. Then, she drank the wine in the glass and pursed her lips. It tastes good. Everyone present was stunned. Even the waiter who was standing at the side was stunned. This was indeed a 1992 Lafite red wine. Chapter 54. Although they were surprised, they didn't stop. They all picked up their wine glasses and started drinking. A few of the boys' faces were flushed red after 1 or 2 glasses of wine. They were delirious and seemed to be a little drunk. On the other hand, Wen Rui, who had a refined and scholarly appearance, was quite capable when it came to drinking. After drinking a few glasses of wine, he turned to look at Yun Jian, who had also drunk a few glasses of wine. However, he saw that Yun Jian's face wasn't red, her heart wasn't racing, and there wasn't even the slightest change in her expression. It was as if what she had just drunk wasn't wine but plain water. Needless to say, when Rui's alcohol tolerance was good. This was something that everyone knew. However, even so, after a few glasses of wine, he already felt a little uncomfortable. His face was even a little flushed. However, Yunjian actually acted as if nothing had happened. Could it be that she wasn't drunk even after 1,000 glasses? In reality, Yunjian was indeed not drunk even after 1,000 glasses. Come. Drink. In the end, the boys pushed and shoved each other. A few of them were drunk. Li Xiangyi had long lost consciousness. When Rui and Wu Kuei were still all right. Of course, Yunjian was in the best condition. You guys can't even compare to a girl. Get up, drink. Let's not go home until we're drunk. Wu Kuei seemed especially agitated. He held his wine glass and ran over to those who were about to pass out drunk. He was mumbling to himself. They're just like that. Don't be scared. When Rui sat beside Yunjian, he looked at Yunjian and smiled embarrassedly. Yunjian looked at the group of hot-blooded youths and nodded. This is very good. It was very good to have this kind of youth. Because she was worried that Qin Yiru would be alone at home, Yunjian left early in the morning. This gathering was held to welcome Yunjian into the basketball team. Now that the main character had left, everyone naturally dispersed. Hence, the boys who weren't drunk helped those who were unconscious back to their respective homes. It was 7:30 p.m. when Yunjian returned home. Qin Yiru had already gone to bed early. The bowls and chopsticks on the table were barely touched, but at least Qin Yiru had eaten some food. Yunjian collected the bowls and chopsticks and went back to her room to rest. The next day, Sunday. When it was almost 10:00 in the evening, Yunjian carried her school bag and rushed to school for evening self-study. She came early. When she arrived, there was no one in the classroom. Then, more and more people came. When Lu Fian arrived, Yunjian had already been at school for half an hour. Once Lu Fian arrived at school, she sprinted to Yunjian without even putting down her bag, mumbling, Xiao Jian, bad news. Lin Mingyu's been discharged. I think she's going back to school today. Lin Mingyu. Yunjian frowned. If Lu Fian hadn't suddenly mentioned it, she would have almost forgotten who this person was. Oh. Yunjian replied softly and continued to read the book in her hand. Xiao Jian. Panicking, Lu Fian pushed Yunjian's book down and said seriously, Lin Mingyu's the principal's daughter. It was our school hunk, Yuan Jun, who suppressed this incident last time. But Lin Mingyu's going back to school. With her personality, she won't act like nothing happened. I'm just worried that Lu Fian panicked even more as she spoke. Yunjian cut her off and comforted her. Since I hit her, why would I be afraid of her? Lu Fian was genuinely concerned about her. Yunjian knew that. Chapter 55. She's here so soon. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Lu Fian, on the other hand, was startled and tugged on Yunjian's sleeve tightly. She was fine, but she was afraid that something would happen to Yunjian. Yunjian patted the back of Lu Fian's hand to comfort her before she tossed her books on the table and stood up. Where's the office? Yunjian asked with a glance at Wang Ruru. She had never been to the teacher's office since she was reborn. Pfft, Yunjian, have you lost your mind? Or are you scared? You're so scared that you forgot where the office is. There, it's over there. Go on. Wang Ruru smirked and gave Yunjian a disdainful glance before pointing in a direction. Yunjian went to where Wang Ruru pointed. Xiao Jian. Lu Fian, who stood where she was, clasped her hands together tightly as she watched Yun Jian disappear from her sight. The teacher's office was also in the school building and was not far from the classroom. After Yun Jian left the classroom, she found the office and strode in gracefully. The layout of the office was not complicated and there were many teachers working at their desks. Yun Jian's homeroom teacher was Ms. Jean. She found Ms. Jin's desk once she entered. The person sitting at Ms. Jin's desk was not Ms. Jean herself but Lin Mingyu, who had just been discharged from the hospital. Beside Lin Mingyu stood a bald middle-aged man in his 50s. Yun Jian had seen this middle-aged man on Monday when the national flag was raised. As expected, he must be Lin Mingyu's father, Xinjiang Town Junior High School's principal. "She's here. She's here." Watching Yun Jian walk over, Lin Mingyu pointed a finger at her viciously, looking like she wanted to tear Yun Jian into pieces. Lin Mingyu hated Yun Jian as much as she loved Yuan Yingjun. She had been recuperating in the hospital for the past few days. Due to the bone fracture in her abdomen, it took a lot of effort just to set the bone. Moreover, during the time she was hospitalized, Yingjun actually broke up with her. All of this was because of Yun Jian. If it wasn't for her, how could she have ended up like this? "Is this Yun Jian from your class?" Principal Lin stuck out his fat beer belly. When he saw Yun Jian, the murderer, who made his daughter suffer for a long time, he spoke to Teacher Jean fiercely. "Principal Lin, I think there must be some misunderstanding. I've taught Yun Jian since she was in her first year of junior high school. She's a good student. She wouldn't do something like that to your daughter. Can you give her another chance?" Teacher Jean knew Yun Jian's character, so she didn't directly criticize Yun Jian just because she wanted to flatter the principal. However, Principal Lin was here today to avenge his daughter, Lin Mingyu. He did not care about anything else. He pointed at Yun Jian and said aggressively to Teacher Jean, "Good student. Do good students know how to fight?" Just this point alone is already a serious violation of our school's rules, not to mention that she injured Mingyu. Principal Lin paused and ordered Teacher Jean in an absolute tone, "Our school can't afford to have a student like this. Today, I want you to make this girl pack up and leave. Make her withdraw from the school for me. Otherwise, Teacher Jean, you know the consequences." Humph. Of course, Teacher Jean knew the consequences. She knew that Principal Lin meant that if she didn't expel Yun Jian today, she would be the one to pack up and leave. However, Yun Jian was indeed a good student in her eyes. Although her grades were a little bad, she was always hardworking. Chapter 56. Yun Jian blinked. She did not expect Teacher Jean to speak up for her. After all, there were not many people who could still uphold their teaching principles under Principal Lin's coercion, and Teacher Jean was one of them. Yun Jian naturally did not want to put Teacher Jean in a difficult position. She glanced at Lin Mingyu, who was hiding behind Principal Lin, and said, "I did hit Lin Mingyu." Everyone present, including the teachers in the office who were watching the show, was stunned. They did not expect Yun Jian to admit to it. Principal Lin's beer belly shook in anger at that. Just as he was about to retort in rage, Yun Jian snatched the right to speak again. Yun Jian continued, "Because Lin Mingyu hit me first, I'd like to ask you, Principal, if fighting is a violation of the school rules and will lead to expulsion, shouldn't Lin Mingyu be expelled together with me?" As soon as he said that, even Principal Lin's expression changed. All the teachers present were stunned. They thought that this female student would plead with Principal Lin for her, but they did not expect her to not be afraid of being expelled. She even shamelessly wanted Lin Mingyu to be expelled together with her. Did she not know that Lin Mingyu was Principal Lin's daughter? How could Principal Lin expel his own daughter? Nonsense, when did I hit you? Look at you, you're still fine. You don't look injured at all. Yun Jian, don't you have any shame? Lin Mingyu lied through her teeth, even twisting the facts. Principal Lin was naturally on his daughter's side. He immediately said, Mingyu is a kind person. How could she hit you? How could she do something as ungentlemanly as fighting? I think you're the one who's pestering me endlessly. You're so young, but you're still making irresponsible remarks after hitting someone. Shameless. Xinjiang Town High School can't afford a student like you. What Principal Lin meant was, scram back to where you came from. Lin Mingyu was a kind person. Yun Jian almost laughed out loud. This joke was more amusing than a pig flying freely in the sky. The surrounding teachers sighed in their hearts when they saw that. Actually, they knew very well who was right and who was wrong. After all, everyone had seen Lin Mingyu's performance in school. However, they did not say it out loud. They did not dare to provoke the principal, so they kept it to themselves. The teachers thought, this female student, of all people, why did she have to provoke the principal's daughter? She's going to be in trouble today. You have to withdraw from today's school even if you don't want to. Principal Lin roared as his body trembled in anger after he finished his string of words. Just wait for the withdrawal notice. Principal Lin glared at Yun Jian from the corner of his eyes and snorted before turning to help Lin Mingyu, who was sitting on the chair in front of Miss Jin's desk and leaving in a huff. Hey, Principal Lin, don't be angry. Yun Jian didn't know any better and said too much. Yun Jian, hurry up and apologize to Principal Lin. Teacher Jean panicked when she saw that Principal Lin was about to leave. Yun Jian's expulsion was set in stone. She quickly pulled Yun Jian aside and asked her to apologize to Principal Lin. She wanted to appease Principal Lin's anger first. Tugged by Miss Jean, Yun Jian went to stand with her. Just as all the teachers in the office, including Principal Lin and Teacher Jean, thought that Yun Jian knew her mistake and would tactfully beg for forgiveness or apologize, Principal Lin stood before Principal Lin. Yun Jian stood in front of Principal Lin and said, 156 Bibo Road, 2nd floor, room 202, Xinjiang Town. What was that? A huge question mark floated above everyone's head when they heard Yun Jian's words. In spite of it, Principal Lin was the only one who shuddered when he heard her. Wasn't that the address of his old flame's house? Chapter 57. Principal Lin's expression was as ugly as if he had just eaten dog **t. It was not easy for him to get to where he was today. If he was found to have a mistress as the principal of a school, there would be many people who would use this as an excuse to make a big deal out of it. If the higher-ups found out about this, he would lose his position as principal. Moreover, his wife was not someone to be trifled with. If this got out, he would lose all his face. Principal Lin raised his head to look at Yun Jian, only to see the girl looking at him with a smile. There was a strong sense of threat in her eyes. Dad, let's not bother about Yun Jian. She always likes to say weird things for no reason. Let's just get her out of here, humph. Lin Mingyu thought that Yun Jian's brain had been flooded with water when she heard what she said just now, so she urged Principal Lin. Lin Mingyu thought that her father, who had always been protective of her, would scold Yun Jian loudly. However, Principal Lin's next move shocked everyone present. Mingyu, shut up. The scene that everyone expected to see of Principal Lin scolding Yun Jian did not happen. Instead, Principal Lin scolded his own daughter, Lin Mingyu. Lin Mingyu was stunned for a while after being scolded by her own father. She looked at Principal Lin in disbelief. Dad, you scolded me. Ever since she was young, her father had always treated her the best. No matter how mischievous she was, even when she got into fights in school, her father would always stand by her side. He had never scolded her like this before. When the teachers in the office saw this scene, they were also confused. Why was Principal Lin standing on his daughter's side just now and trying his best to protect her? Yunjian had only said one sentence, and Principal Lin had turned around and scolded his own daughter. Dad, I'm your daughter. Why are you helping that B*tch Yunjian to scold me? You've never treated me like this. Lin Mingyu felt wronged. She pointed at Yunjian and said angrily to Principal Lin. Before she could finish, she was interrupted. Slap. A loud slap was heard. Principal Lin slapped his daughter's face. Not long after, Lin Mingyu's face began to burn. A red palm print appeared on her cheek. Principal Lin endured the pain of slapping his own daughter and continued to roar at Lin Mingyu angrily. Even his fat body trembled twice. I told you to shut up, did you hear me? To be honest, Principal Lin was still afraid that Yunjian would tell others about him keeping a mistress. If that really happened, not only would he be humiliated and embarrassed, he might not even be able to keep his current position as principal. The price was definitely not small. Therefore, he would never allow such a thing to happen. Yunjian crossed her arms and watched the series of events unfold in front of her. She had long expected that something like this would happen, so when she was surfing the internet at the internet cafe last time, she specially looked for the Global Secret Service intelligence station to search for Principal Lin's personal information. In the end, she found such an interesting thing. Ah! Yunjian, it's all your fault, it's all your fault. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Lin Mingyu had never been humiliated like this before. Her father actually slapped her. Ever since she was young, no one had ever treated her like this. And all of this was because of Yunjian. Not long ago, Yuan Ingjun broke up with her because of Yunjian as well. Lin Mingyu was blinded by anger and hatred. She grabbed the black pen on the desk closest to her and rushed towards Yunjian. The black pen was pointed downwards. Lin Mingyu held the pen and wanted to viciously stab Yunjian. Everyone present sucked in a deep breath when they saw this. Lin Mingyu was going to stab Yunjian with the pen. She was going to kill her. Ah! A few female teachers in the office had already turned their heads away, not daring to watch what was going to happen next. Only a few braver ones were still watching, but their hearts were at their highest point. Just as Lin Mingyu was about to viciously stab Yunjian with the pen, Yunjian raised her leg slightly and in the next second, she suddenly stretched out her leg. That leg viciously kicked Lin Mingyu's abdomen. The old injury reignited. Lin Mingyu screamed and flew a few meters away from the kick. Yunjian retracted her leg and curled it into a cold arc. Chapter 58. All the teachers, including Principal Lin, who had never seen such a shocking scene, stared at Yunjian in shock. Yunjian was too ruthless. If not for Yunjian's quick, accurate, and ruthless moves, who knew what would have happened? Mingyu, Mingyu. My daughter. Principal Lin loved his daughter the most. Seeing that Yunjian had sent her flying with a kick, he did not dare to say anything. He could only shout and rush forward to help her up. Principal Lin was the most terrified at this moment. How did his daughter offend Yunjian? Didn't they say that Yunjian was just a child from a poor family? Not only did he know about her secrets, but his skills were even better than those of the special forces in the army. After helping Lin Mingyu up, Principal Lin fled the scene. He did not dare to stay here any longer. Firstly, his daughter was going to have a conflict with Yunjian again. He could not guarantee what Yunjian would do next. His weakness was still in the other party's hands. At this moment, Principal Lin only wanted to roar. Yunjian was not like what he knew before. She was just an ordinary student. She was not human. She was a demon. Seeing Principal Lin run away with his daughter, none of the teachers present dared to say anything. However, in his heart, he could no longer use the word surprised or shocked to describe it. Yunjian was clearly at a disadvantage in this matter. But why was it that Principal Lin ran away with his tail between his legs instead of Yunjian being kicked out? Wasn't this too unbelievable? Principal Lin's intention to expel Yunjian naturally came to an end. Obviously, Yunjian had something on Principal Lin. Unless he did not want to be a principal anymore or wanted to lose his reputation, he would not expel Yunjian. Yunjian attracted a lot of attention when she returned to the classroom. Everyone knew that Yunjian had offended the principal's daughter, Lin Mingyu. Yunjian was most likely called to the office because of this. How could Yunjian continue to stay in school now that the principal was here personally? Just as Yunjian stepped into the classroom, Lu Fian ran over to ask worriedly, "Xiao Jian, how is it? Are you okay?" Seeing Lu Fian's worried gaze on her, Yunjian wanted to comfort her, but a shrill female voice snatched the right to speak. The Chinese class representative, Wang Ruru, spoke up before Yunjian could. "When I went to the office to get my copybook just now, I saw our school's principal in the office. Class 1's Lin Mingyu was there too. Their expressions were somber too. How can they be okay?" As she spoke, Wang Ruru pretended to be concerned about Yunjian and asked, "Oh my god, Yunjian, you weren't expelled, were you? Class 1's Lin Mingyu is our principal's daughter. I heard that when she was in year 1, a girl accidentally spilled water on her and got expelled not long after." Her words caused quite a few students in the class to brag about it. A girl who accidentally spilled water on Lin Mingyu would be expelled from school. Yunjian from their class had beaten Lin Mingyu up and sent her to the hospital. Did that not make things worse? Chapter 59. Wang Ruru was asking for a snub. Her original intention was to use Yunjian's incident to boost her reputation in class, but Yunjian ignored her completely, so she kept quiet. After the incident came to an end, Yunjian lived a peaceful life for a while. Qin Yiru's hand had fully recovered and she insisted on going back to work in the textile factory. Yunjian thought about it for a long time but did not take out the 10,000 yuan she withdrew from Longmen City the last time. It was definitely inappropriate for her to take out the money so hastily. She had no choice but to let Qin Yiru go back to work in the textile factory first. It was another sunny weekend. Yunjian took the bus to Longmen city center again. She did not plan to surf the net at the internet cafe this time but went straight to the computer mall to buy a computer. Yunjian realized that it was inconvenient for her to come to Longmen City time and time again to surf the net, so she planned to buy a computer at home. Of course, she could not let Qin Yiru find out if she kept the computer at home. Laptops were already on the market in 1998. They could be bought in big cities like Longmen City. Yunjian planned to buy a laptop because it was convenient to carry around. The biggest market in Longmen City was called Liame Shopping Center. It was the biggest shopping mall in the city. One could come here to buy anything. If one could not buy what one wanted here, it would be impossible to buy it in the entire Longmen City. The computer mall was located on the 4th floor of Liame Shopping Center. Yunjian walked to the 4th floor and saw a plaque above the door that read Liame Computer Mall. She walked in with a small smile. There were very few people who bought computers in this era because it cost a lot to install one. Usually, only those who were worth millions would come here to buy a computer. Therefore, there was only a female attendant in the computer mall. The waitress was swatting flies with her hand out of boredom. When she heard someone coming in, she naturally knew that there was a customer. She quickly put on her signature smile, and before she looked up to see who it was, she said in her coquettish voice, "Welcome." Just as he said this, he paused. The attendant thought that the customer would be a successful man in his 40s or 50s or a middle-aged man dressed like a big boss. Who knew that it would be a teenage girl who came in? When the waitress saw Yunjian coming in from the door, the anger that she had just puffed up deflated at once. How could a teenage girl have the money to buy a computer? She probably had not even touched a computer before. The computers here cost more than 10,000 yuan. Looking at Yunjian's current attire, the attendant immediately thought that she was probably a pauper who came in for a look but could not afford a computer. Thus, the buttocks that had just been raised immediately sat back down. Yunjian was naturally aware of the waitress's attitude, but she paid it no mind and went straight to the display counter for the laptops. Seeing that Yunjian asked to touch her, the attendant's hands, she could not sit still. Hey, hey, hey. Don't touch it. The attendant ran over, wanting to slap Yunjian's hand away as she said, "This laptop is the latest model. It costs more than 30,000 yuan. Don't touch it. Can you afford to pay for it if it's damaged?" What she meant was, "You're a little girl. Why did you come here to touch a computer instead of staying in school?" Chapter 60. Yunjian was one step ahead of the waitress and withdrew her hand. The waitress wanted to slap Yunjian's hand, but she missed. However, the waitress didn't think much of it. She said to Yunjian in an educating tone, "Little kid, this is the 4th floor. We're not selling your favorite toys. We're selling computers. Do you know what a computer is? Something that can be used to surf the internet. Sigh, forget it. You won't understand even if I say more. Hurry up and leave." The waitress had always been proud of her profession of selling computers in the computer city. She even felt that she could sell computers here because the customers she interacted with were all big bosses. She was also someone who walked in front of others. At least in this era, there were some people who didn't even know what a computer was. They had never seen one before. The waitress naturally categorized Yunjian as one of these people. Therefore, when she spoke, she was full of pride. She thought to herself, "I'm nothing in front of big bosses, but I can at least find some sense of superiority in front of this little girl, right?" She really didn't know where this waitress' sense of superiority came from. Yunjian just wanted to laugh. "This is the latest laptop model, ThinkPad. 600, it's 13.3 inches in size. It supports a maximum amount of memory, a 5 GB hard drive, and weighs 2.5 kilograms. Miss Waitress, am I right?" Yunjian ignored the waitress's nagging and recited the laptop's attributes in one breath. Since the waitress said that she didn't know what a computer was, then she would explain the laptop's attributes to her. She originally thought that Yunjian was a little girl who didn't even know what a computer was. Who knew that Yunjian could actually recite the laptop's attributes? The waitress widened her eyes. Why did she feel that her actions just now were like showing off her slight skill in front of an expert in front of Yunjian? Moreover, the waitress didn't understand what Yunjian said just now. She only knew how to sell computers. How would she know the attributes of a laptop? That's right. However, in order to save her face, the waitress still pretended to understand and agreed. "I'll take it. Put this laptop in." Yunjian tapped the glass counter twice with her middle finger and index finger. Her other hand reached into her trouser pocket and took out the bank card with nearly 100 million US dollars. She threw it on the counter. The money was originally deposited in Qin Yiru's bank card, but Yunjian later made a bank card for herself and transferred all the money to her own bank card. Therefore, this bank card belonged to Yunjian. This. The waitress was dumbfounded once again. She originally thought that Yunjian was a poor child who came here to wander around aimlessly. But who knew that she was really here to buy a computer? Moreover, it was a bank card. He just didn't know if there was really money in this bank card. The market price of this laptop is $31,999. The money in this card. Is it enough? Before the waitress could ask the last 3 words, Yun Jian interrupted her again. The card doesn't have a password. After you swipe it, please return it to me immediately. Yun Jian didn't want to argue with the waitress and said calmly. Being forced to this point, the waitress had no choice but to take the card and run to the counter. She wanted to see if this little girl could really take out 30,000 renminbi from her card. 30,000 renminbi wasn't a small amount. She worked here for a month and only earned 2,000 to 3,000 RMB a month. This monthly income was considered quite high in this era. The waitress came to the counter and wasn't in a hurry to swipe the 30,000 renminbi from the card. Perhaps it was out of curiosity, but she really wanted to see how much money this arrogant little girl had in her card. Because the card didn't have a password, the waitress first checked the remaining balance of the card. However, when the remaining balance of the card popped up, the waitress was so shocked that she almost dropped the card on the floor. The number that popped up from the card machine was 9997000. There were also 2 dazzling words behind it, USD. Chapter 61. There was close to $100 million in the card, which was equivalent to 600 million Chinese yuan. The waitress gripped the card with trembling hands, almost suffocating. God knew how shocked she was when she saw the number. What did it mean for a teenage girl to be able to fork out such a huge sum of money? This girl was definitely not an ordinary person. In Longmen City, anyone who had a net worth of more than $1 million was considered a tycoon. Usually, the waitresses would have to lower their heads and bow when they saw this kind of rich man with a net worth of millions. As for the girl, the waitress dared not let her imagination run wild. She quickly swiped the money for the laptop from the card and ran to where Yun Jian was. When she passed the card back to Yun Jian, the waitress's hands were trembling. Your card, please keep it safe. The waitress' attitude took a complete turn as she stammered and ran to wrap up the laptop Yun Jian had bought. She almost lost such a huge deal because of her contempt. Fortunately, Yun Jian did not seem to want to hold it against her. Yun Jian was not angry at the waitress' change in attitude. Taking the bag with the laptop the waitress passed to her, Yun Jian turned to leave. Have a safe journey. The waitress bowed deeply but did not receive any response. After exiting the computer mall, Yun Jian went to get an internet connection. It was not enough to buy a laptop without internet connection. It was already noon when she walked out of Lianmei shopping center. There was no one at home. Qin Yiru had gone to work and would only be home at night. Yun Jian had her lunch at a noodle restaurant in Longmen City before taking the bus back to Xinjiang town. As soon as she got home, she installed the broadband cable and went back to her room. She turned on her laptop and quickly tapped on it with her fingers, opening a brand new web page. This web page was used by her in her past life to contact her subordinates. She did not log in at the internet cafe that day because it was difficult for her to surf the net in public. Yun Jian logged into the web page using her previous life's codename, Slaying God. A small window popped up. It was a secret message from her subordinate, the Demoness. Shaw, you're the one who stole the $100 million from the company, aren't you? You're short of money. The Demoness' secret letter was filled with disbelief. Slaying God was not short of money, but unfortunately, she was now Yun Jian. Yun Jian smiled and typed quickly on the keyboard, yes, I do. Click and send. As soon as he sent the message, the Demoness immediately replied. Give me your bank account number, and I'll transfer a few billion to you. The witch's reply was relaxed and straightforward. A few billion was nothing in her eyes. No need. We don't need it now, Yunjian replied. To be honest, the last thing she lacked in her previous life was money. A few 100 million was nothing to her. It was only after her rebirth that she realized that a few 100 million was an astronomical figure in the eyes of ordinary people. Most people would not even have such a huge sum of money in their lifetime. Chapter 62. The weekend passed quickly and it was back to school in the blink of an eye. It would be the basketball competition in a week's time, so Li Xiangyi and the rest's basketball training was getting more frequent. Yun Jian did not join their basketball training. It was an exception for her. After all, Yun Jian's skills were there for all to see. No one would say no to her. Xiao Jian, our class's evening self-study session today is cancelled. I heard that there's going to be a class activity tonight. They're going to let us perform on stage or something. Our homeroom teacher has agreed to it too, saying that it's for us to relax and adjust our learning state. Just as the art class in the afternoon ended, Lu Fian went to Yun Jian's ear in exhilaration. As the years went on, the first major test of their lives was coming to the third year of junior high, the middle school entrance examination. Under such a serious situation, it was difficult for the students to adjust their mentality to study properly. Hence, the class committee held a meeting and requested special privileges from their homeroom teacher to organize an activity during the evening self-study session to liven up the atmosphere and liven up the students. Hearing that the evening self-study session was no longer required and they could even do activities, the students in the class were overjoyed, including Lu Fian. As a matter of fact, Lu Fian went to Yun Jian to tell her about it right after class. Oh. Yun Jian was not interested in such things as she sprawled on her desk and took a short nap. Aya, Xiao Jian, don't be so nonchalant. It's rare to have an activity like this. When it's over, we won't have time to play anymore. We'll have to focus on our studies next, so you have to look happy too. Lu Fian pouted. Then, as if remembering something, Lu Fian told Yun Jian, right, Xiao Jian, we can sign up for the evening self-study session. I signed up and want to sing a song to liven up the atmosphere. Xiao Jian, do you want to come with me? It was only then that Yun Jian looked up. She pressed her lips together and glanced at Lu Fian with a smile. I'll pass. Oh, okay then. Lu Fian could only give up. The evening self-study session came as scheduled. The purpose of the activity was to relax everyone's tense emotions. As long as they signed up with the class committee, any student in the class could go up on stage and perform a small performance. For example, singing a song or dancing. The activity this time was actually thought up by the Chinese class representative, Wang Ruru. Hence, she was the one who hosted the entire activity this time. It was obvious that Wang Ruru liked to be in the limelight, or else she would not have gossiped about Yun Jian's eyes. During the event, the atmosphere at the scene was indeed very lively. Lu Fian also went up to the podium and sang a song. Her sweet voice welcomed the applause of the whole class. Yun Jian clapped for LV Fian as well. She sat in her seat and watched the show. After Lu Fian got off the stage, Wang Ruru held the name list of the students who came up on stage to perform. Suddenly, she glanced at Yun Jian maliciously and snorted in her heart. Next is Yun Jian. She's going to perform a dance for us. Let's give her a round of applause. Wang Ruru glanced at Yun Jian maliciously and said. Obviously, Wang Ruru was holding a grudge. She remembered that Yun Jian did not give her face last time and ignored her, so she added Yun Jian's name to the list of people who were going to perform. Wang Ruru was well aware of Yun Jian's background. She came from the countryside, So how could she have learned how to dance? She had already written her name on the list. Yunjian had to dance even if she didn't want to. Wang Ruru suddenly pulled out a smile, which was very strange. She was waiting to see Yunjian make a fool of herself. Who asked her to not give her face that day? Chapter 63. The event this time was just a small class activity, so it was not as formal as a joint performance on New Year's Day. The students were only going up to sing a song or dance at the last minute to liven things up. Therefore, Wang Ruru had put Yunjian's name on the list of students who were going up to perform. Even if Yunjian said that she did not sign up now, the class would only think that she was being a wet blanket. Wang Ruru had considered this and was well aware that Yunjian was from the countryside. Asking her to dance. How was that possible? She probably had never even seen a real dance before. It was obvious that she was trying to embarrass Yunjian. As expected, the entire class clapped after Wang Ruru's speech. The applause was unusually loud. The class loved to watch the drama. Most of them, as long as they were not stupid, could tell that Wang Ruru was purposely making things difficult for Yunjian. In spite of it, who would not be happy to watch a show? Hence, they were clamoring for Yunjian to perform the dance. Wang Ruru, what's the meaning of this? Xiao Jian didn't sign up. Why do you want her to perform? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Among the spectating students, only Lu Fian stood up. Her expression was dark as she glared hatefully at Wang Ruru after she stood up, speaking up for Yunjian. She had been with Xiao Jian all this time. How did she not know that Xiao Jian had signed up for the program? It was a dance too. Lu Fian had planned to invite Yunjian to sing a song with her, but Yunjian did not agree back then. It was obvious that Wang Ruru was using her power to avenge a personal grudge by adding Yunjian to the list and asking Yunjian to perform a dance. Most of them knew how to sing, or even sing the national anthem. However, most of them didn't know how to dance. Was it not obvious that they were bullying Xiao Jian? Lu Fian was the first to stand up. What do you mean? Didn't I call out the names according to the order on the registration form? Did I just randomly add Yunjian's name? I'm not as free as you guys. Wang Ruru refused to admit that her scheme had succeeded. After she said that, Wang Ruru suddenly made an exaggerated expression of shock like she had discovered a new world. She looked at Yunjian and raised her voice, asking the obvious. Oh God, Yunjian, don't you know how to dance? Why did you sign up for a dance then? Since you've signed up, you have to perform. Why don't you do a few moves? We're just here to liven things up, it's fine. Those who didn't know the inside story might think that Wang Ruru was easy to negotiate with and was very concerned about her classmates. Yunjian was only amused. You really want me to perform a dance? This time, Yunjian did not let Lu Fian stand up for her. She spoke first, standing up from her seat lazily and looking at Wang Ruru, her tone relaxed. That's right. How could it be fake? But Yunjian, it's fine if you don't know how to dance. Come up and do a few moves to liven things up. We're all in our class anyway, there's nothing to be shy about. Wang Ruru spoke as gently as she could, but she was over the moon. She could not wait to see Yunjian embarrass herself later. Yeah, what's the big deal? Go up and do a dance. Yeah. Many students in the class started to echo Wang Ruru's words. Wang Ruru wore a smile that she thought she had one. Fight with her. No way. Chapter 64. Xiao Jian. Lu Fian clenched her fists when she heard Yunjian say, I'll dance, and called out softly, worried about Yunjian. It was a feeling of helplessness. She knew that it was Wang Ruru who wanted to harm her friend, but there was nothing she could do. I'm fine. Yunjian smiled at Lu Fian. She knew that Lu Fian cared for her from the bottom of her heart. Living in the current world, one didn't need to form a group of friends. As long as there was one who was sincere and truly cared about him, it would be enough for him to have one such friend and confidant. Whenever Lu Fian heard Yunjian say, I'm fine, whenever something happened, she felt like she could calm down. She could not help but believe in Xiao Jian and believe that she could do it. Yunjian, come up quickly if you're going to dance. The whole class is waiting for you. Wang Ruru said, adding fuel to the fire, but she was already raring to go. She could not wait to see Yunjian make a fool of herself and spread the news tonight so that the whole school would know that Yunjian was only pretty. What was the use of having a pretty face? She was still a pauper from the countryside. I'm not dancing here, Yunjian said slowly with narrowed eyes. Where are you going to dance if you're not dancing here? Wang Ruru was so anxious that she almost blurted out the question. Yunjian did not give Wang Ruru a chance to speak. She looked out of the classroom and continued, I want to dance outside the classroom. Once she said that, everyone in the class was stunned. Wang Ruru, in particular, had an exaggerated expression. She had planned to embarrass Yunjian in class, but the latter had suggested that she wanted to dance outside the classroom. There were lights outside the classroom at night. Did this mean that the classes next door who were having self-study at night would be able to see Yunjian make a fool of herself? Was this not a slap to her own face? Wang Ruru's smile became even weirder. She kept speaking, afraid that Yunjian would go back on her words and dance in the classroom again. She hurriedly said, okay. You can dance outside. We'll stand in the corridor and watch you dance. After that, all the students in the class stood in the corridor of the classroom. The whole class looked at Yunjian excitedly as she walked out. They wanted to see what she was up to. Did she want the whole school to know that she couldn't dance? The surrounding classes of Class 6 were all Grade 3 students. At this time, the students of Class 6 stood out, and the surrounding classes all noticed the commotion. Everyone, including Yuan Ingjun from Class 1 and Li Xiangyi from the basketball team, could clearly see Yunjian walking from her classroom to the flat ground. What was going on? What was Yunjian trying to do? Yunjian walked out of the classroom with her hands in her pockets. She walked lazily, but it gave people a new feeling. In the middle of Class S6's classroom was a flat ground. There were many fitness equipment on the ground. Yunjian walked over and suddenly stood next to a long pole. This pole was a few meters tall. Hey, what is she trying to do? Is she going to dance with the pole? Ha! Ha! A boy in the class couldn't help but complain. On the other side, Yunjian extended her hand and touched the pole softly between her fingers. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. Yunjian, who was originally in a lazy state, suddenly became charming. She walked over and stuck her body to the pole. Her eyes drifted in the direction of the crowd. She was so enchanting. However, this was only the beginning of Yunjian's dance. Just as everyone was puzzled, Yunjian suddenly kicked her legs and hung on the pole. What was strange was that the moment she hung on the pole, she was relaxed. Pole dancing. Some students immediately realized what Yunjian was going to do next. Chapter 65. Yunjian, what are you doing hanging on the pole? Wang Ruru was stupid. She still hadn't realized what Yunjian was doing. She couldn't help but mock her again. At this moment, a scene that made Wang Ruru's jaw drop appeared. Yunjian held the pole with one hand. Her legs were wrapped around the pole, and she started to spin around the pole. Her every move was enchanting and charming, but it matched the rhythm of the dance and the charm of classical music. There was no accompaniment, but Yunjian's pole dance was mesmerizing. She sucked her legs, bent her waist, and crossed her arms. She did every move perfectly. At this moment, Wang Ruru could only stare with her eyes wide open. She couldn't say a word. She originally wanted to embarrass Yunjian, but at this moment, even a fool could tell that Yunjian's dance was something she had never seen before. She knew that it was impossible to achieve this effect without years of practice. Yunjian actually knew how to pole dance. Yuan Ingjun from Class 1 was stunned. All this while, Yunjian's beauty was well known to the public. In spite of it, she usually dressed in a plain, loose-fitting outfit that hid her figure completely. As for this pole dance, there was gentleness within the hardness. Especially when she was posing, her loose clothes clung to her body, revealing her proud curves and her slender and perfect figure. Everything was unreservedly displayed. Oh my God! So beautiful! A boy in the crowd couldn't help but shout. The atmosphere reached its peak at this moment. Until the end, when the dance ended, everyone was still stuck in their high spirits and couldn't extricate themselves. Yunjian got off the ground easily. She smiled and looked at Wang Ruru. At this moment, Wang Ruru's feelings could no longer be described as shock. It was an expression worse than eating shit. Yunjian retracted her gaze and walked slowly to the classroom. Pole dancing was a dance that she had to know as a secret agent in her past life. She could master the dance perfectly and bring out different charms. It was just that she did not expect to be able to dance here in front of everyone today. Yunjian went to Wang Ruru and said with a half-smile, "I'm done." As she spoke, she went back to the classroom without waiting for the other party's agreement. "Hey, Xiao Jian." Before she entered the classroom, she was stopped by Yuan Ingjun, who ran out of Class 1. Yunjian could tell that it was Yuan Ingjun's voice right away. "Xiao Jian, have you forgiven me? So the dance just now was done outside just for me to see." Yuan Ingjun couldn't find the dignity to run away last time, but he was still unwilling to give up. He didn't think that Yunjian really disliked him. He merely thought that Yunjian was just acting out of spite. After all, it was impossible to find a boy as outstanding as him in Xinjiang town. If it wasn't for this reason, why would Yunjian stand outside and do a pole dance where he could see? Yunjian almost burst out laughing when she heard what Yuan Ingjun said. She had never met someone as shameless as Yuan Ingjun. How many times had she emphasized it, but Yuan Ingjun was still stubborn enough to come to her. It was no wonder then. When the original owner of her body was still around and Yuan Ingjun was still dating Lin Mingyu, he would pester her like a sticky candy. There was an 80% chance that Yuan Ingjun was being shameless. Chapter 66. After Yunjian finished speaking, she went over to call Lu Fian and walked into the classroom, leaving behind a group of people who were dumbfounded. Not long after, two things would spread around the school. The first was the news that had spread like wildfire a while ago. The school hunk courted Yunjian, but was rejected. This time, Yuan Ingjun courted Yunjian again in public, but was rejected again. The school hunk courted Yunjian twice and was rejected, so there would definitely be a lot of people sighing. The other thing was probably Yunjian's pole dance. These two things both revolved around Yunjian. At this moment, the main character of these two things had already returned to the classroom, lying on the table with her eyes closed, sleeping lazily. Yunjian could feel that she was no longer as interested in everything around her as she was a few days ago when she first came here. The students who were standing at the door had all returned to the classroom to continue their activities for the night. Yuan Ingjun, on the other hand, had no choice but to return to the classroom since it was self-study time now. Before Jun left, he took a few more glances at Yunjian. A strange conspiracy formed in Jun's heart. Alright, since this Yunjian doesn't know what's good for her, then I'll. Wang Ruru wanted to frame Yunjian but failed, and instead made a false accusation, which made Yunjian stand out even more. She was very unhappy, but there was nothing she could do, so she could only thicken her skin and continue to host the activities. As time passed, it had already been more than a month since Yunjian's rebirth, and the school was about to hold its monthly exam. Next week was the basketball competition, so Li Xiangyi and the others trained even harder for the competition. Sometimes, they even needed Yunjian's help to guide them. Of course, Yunjian didn't refuse. After a month of leisure, it wasn't a good idea to continue like this. She had yet to avenge her brother in her previous life. How could she continue to be so carefree? That night, Yunjian logged into the website she used to contact her subordinates and took the initiative to contact the Kosha mercenaries. This time, she didn't contact Tiger Leopard, but the other leader of the Kosha mercenaries, codenamed Snake. Lizard. She left Snake. Lizard with a long list of addresses and a simple order. Come quickly. The address was naturally her current address, but she did not specify Xinjiang town. Instead, he wanted Snake. Lizard to wait for him at a hotel in Longmen City. Among the Kosha mercenaries, the one she thought the most highly of was Snake. Lizard. It could be said that Snake. Lizard was his right-hand man in his previous life. The organization that killed her brother was definitely not ordinary. She had to think about it carefully. The only person she trusted now was Snake. Lizard, so she had to come alone. Snake Lizard was just a code name. However, Snake Lizard herself was just like her code name. She was a scorpion woman. The Snake Lizard was best at using poison. Just as the message was sent, a reply came in 10 minutes later. I'll be there right away after I'm done with what I'm doing. In her previous life, Yunjian was able to stand at the top of the secret agent leaderboard and even the top boss of the Kosha mercenaries in the world. She had plenty of capable subordinates around her. Of course, she had to have subordinates. The prerequisite was that she was strong. Xiao Jian, why is the light in your room still on? Aren't you going to sleep? It's almost 10. You still have class tomorrow. Qin Yiru's voice called from outside the door. Qin Yiru had always slept earlier than Yunjian. She had gone to the toilet after waking up today and noticed that the light in Yunjian's room was still on, so she came over to inform her. I'm going to sleep now, Yunjian replied. She then closed the laptop and hid it before getting out of bed barefoot to turn off the light. She had bought the laptop behind Qin Yiru's back, so she could not let her know. Chapter 67. Early in the morning the next day, Yunjian ran a few laps around Xinjiang town before going home. Just as she was about to go home to get her bag for school, she stepped through the door and saw Qin Yiru crying her eyes out. There were also a few people sitting beside her. She had seen eldest uncle Yunjing before. Beside Yunjing sat two old men. These two were not outsiders, but her nominal grandfather and grandmother. At this moment, no matter if it was Qin Yiru, Yunjing, grandfather Yunzhong, or grandmother Lu Lanhua, their expressions were all ugly. What divorce? Since you've already entered our Yun family, you're a member of our Yun family for the rest of your life. Isn't it good to live peacefully with Gang Er? Gang Er did make a small mistake now, but you have to put up with him. Isn't it just borrowing money from a loan shark? Also, which man nowadays doesn't cheat? You, don't try to kill yourself. Anyway, if you want to divorce our Gang Er, there's no way. Grandmother Lu Lanhua pointed at Qin Yiru's nose. She was wearing a fancy dress, and her words were even more frivolous. Mom, this matter doesn't make sense. After all, it's younger brother who was in the wrong first. Yunzheng couldn't stand it anymore, so he spoke up for Qin Yiru. His sister-in-law Qin Yiru was determined to divorce his brother this time. When the two elders heard about this matter, they immediately rushed over and scolded Qin Yiru without distinguishing between right and wrong. They only had one goal, to prevent Qin Yiru and Yun Gang from divorcing. Now that Yun Gang wasn't here, they really couldn't make a decision on this matter. Yunzheng also saw today's matter. It was really his younger brother Yun Gang who was too inhumane, so he wanted to speak up for Qin Yiru. But after Yunzheng said that, Lu Lanhua became even more agitated. She even scolded Yunzheng along with it. Alright, boss, why are you siding with an outsider? Anyway, this old woman will definitely not agree to this matter. Over my dead body. Lu Lanhua tried her best to maintain her aura, but she still wanted to act shamelessly. How could she allow Qin Yiru to divorce her son Yun Gang? All these years, his son had been living an easy life. It was all because of Qin Yiru, this cow, who worked so hard to earn money to support him. If the two of them really divorced, then not only would he not get any benefits, he might even have to pay for an unfilial son. Therefore, no matter what, he had to let Qin Yiru continue to be a spendthrift. Grandpa Yunzhong didn't say a word. Instead, he took out his cigarette and started smoking. His expression was very serious. Under the coercion of Lu Lanhua, Qin Yiru could only cry. In the end, she didn't have the guts to go against the old man. Moreover, Yun Jian's grandmother, Lu Lanhua, was a well-known shrew and tomboy in town. She was good at quarreling and unreasonable. Qin Yiru could not win against Lu Lanhua at all. Then you can go to hell. Yun Jian, who was standing at the door, heard Lu Lanhua's threat of, if you don't agree to my request, I will go to hell. She walked in. Her tone was very calm, but it caused people to be in turmoil. Qin Yiru had been married to Yun Gang for so many years. She had suffered enough. Now, Yun Gang was involved in such a thing. He ran away from loan sharks and had an affair with a mistress. The mistress came to bully him. Just based on this point, she couldn't continue living like this. Moreover, Yun Gang didn't even know where he was hiding now. Yun Jian's sudden appearance stunned everyone present. Especially when she said, then you can go to hell, to Lu Lanhua. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 68. While they were still in a daze, Yun Jian was already standing in front of Qin Yiru. She could find her grandmother, Lu Lanhua, in the original owner's memory. She was rude, unreasonable, and unreasonable. Usually, Qin Yiru had to suffer from Lu Lanhua's anger. But Qin Yiru's personality was like that. She would not compete with the elderly, so she was always bullied. You want me to die? You don't even acknowledge your grandmother. You unfilial daughter. Where is the justice? Lu Lanhua was the first to react. She made a face that looked like she could barely catch her breath and pointed a finger at Yun Jian, barking fiercely. Lu Lanhua was an old woman who favored boys over girls. If it was Yun Yi who stood here and spoke to Lu Lanhua in such a tone, Lu Lanhua would never speak to Yun Yi in such a tone. It was a pity that Yun Jian was a girl, so Lu Lanhua found her an eyesore. There was a difference between a granddaughter and a grandson. Didn't you say it yourself? My mother wants to divorce Yun Gang. Unless you die, you won't agree. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and her long eyelashes fluttered. When everyone heard this, their hearts skipped a beat. Lu Lanhua did say this just now, but everyone knew that grandmother Lu Lanhua had only said it out of anger to threaten Qin Yiru. How would she dare to really die? In spite of it, Yun Jian spoke frankly. Glaring coldly at her nominal grandmother, she enunciated, "Since you don't agree, you can go to hell. My mother will not continue living with Yun Gang. This marriage must be divorced." Yun Jian called Yun Gang by his name. It was obvious that she did not treat Yun Gang as her father. A father like this was not a father at all. Is it up to a little kid like you to interfere in whether your mother wants to divorce or not? Lu Lanhua was so angry that she took a few deep breaths. Finally, she gritted her teeth and shouted at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, "Fine, divorce. Li. But the two of you must become monks with nothing. You're not allowed to take anything from this room. And little E must follow us." To Lu Lanhua, the house and her grandson, Yun Yi, were the most important things. In other words, Qin Yiru, the ATM, who worked so hard to make money for her family, could no longer stay. She would take Yun Jian with her. However, Yun Yi was her grandson. She had to stay. Yun Jian chuckled. It was a mocking smirk. If her memory served her right, it was Qin Yiru who had earned the money to build the second floor of their house. All these years, Qin Yiru's efforts for this family could not be described with just a few words. And Lu Lanhua actually wanted them to become nuns with nothing. Wasn't this blatant bullying? Just as Yun Jian was about to speak, Qin Yiru interrupted her. "Mom. I'm calling you Mom for the last time because you're also a mother. You know how a mother feels." Qin Yiru gathered her courage and wiped away her tears. She continued, "I can give up everything in this house, but I want to take little E with me." "Impossible." Just as Qin Yiru finished speaking, Lu Lanhua shouted in agitation. Her grandson. Lu Lanhua had 2 sons in total, Yun Zheng and Yun Gang. Her eldest son, Yun Zheng, only had 1 daughter, Yun Xiaoya. Only her second son, Yun Gang, had a son. Chapter 69. Qin Yiru was truly disappointed that things had escalated to this point. She could still give in to Lu Lanhua if it did not involve the child's upbringing. However, once she thought of Lu Lanhua wanting to keep her son, Yun Yi, no matter how good-tempered Qin Yiru was, she was still enraged. She was a mother. She could give up the money she had worked so hard to earn all these years, but she had to take her children with her. "All the houses here belong to you guys. I won't take them, but Xiao Yi and Xiao Jian are my children. I'll take them with me." Yun Jian held Qin Yiru's hand, giving Qin Yiru, who was on the brink of despair, some courage. It was the first time Qin Yiru spoke angrily to Lu Lanhua. No matter how good-tempered a person was, they would be forced to lose their temper. Qin Yiru could not take it anymore. Her husband was on credit and had an affair, throwing all the chores to her. Even if she wanted a divorce now, there was a difficult mother-in-law who refused to allow it. That was one thing, but now, even her child was being snatched away. How could she stand it? Great, you're rebelling." It was Qin Yiru's first time being angry at Lu Lanhua. Lu Lanhua was stunned for a few seconds before she stretched her hand to slap Qin Yiru as she cursed. Before Lu Lanhua's slap could land on Qin Yiru's cheek, however, a slender hand caught the old, wrinkled hand. Slap! Yun Jian gave Lu Lanhua a slap with a backhand. The surroundings were quiet, but the slap was loud and clear. Everyone present was dumbfounded by what they saw. No matter what, Lu Lanhua was an elder. No one present thought that Yun Jian would slap Lu Lanhua in public. A granddaughter slapping her grandmother. While everyone watched the scene in shock, Yun Jian chuckled, sending chills down their spines. Try hitting my mom if you dare. I guarantee that you'll walk out of here alive. Don't say that Yunjian did not respect her elders or that she had gone overboard. She admitted that she was not a good person. She was very protective and selfish. She would not tolerate anyone who bullied her mother, including this grandmother in name. Lu Lanhua, who was slapped, covered her face and looked at Yunjian in disbelief. Yunjian had always been timid and cowardly. Even after what she said just now, Yunjian was someone who did not dare to do what she said. What did she do just now? This useless granddaughter of his actually slapped him. Lu Lanhua was not a good-tempered person. As mentioned earlier, Lu Lanhua was a famous tomboy in town. She had her ways when it came to quarrel, and she was unreasonable. After being slapped by his own granddaughter today, how could he let it go so easily? Well, you've learned how to be mean. You even dare to hit your own grandmother. Do you think I'm an old woman? Do you think I'm too old to hit you? If I don't teach you a lesson on behalf of your shameless mother today, you won't be done. Lu Lanhua rolled up her sleeves and walked towards Yunjian angrily. Mom, don't be angry, don't be angry. Let's talk this out. Yunjian quickly grabbed Lu Lanhua's arm to stop her. Ha! Yunjian only smiled at Lu Lanhua's words. Would she be afraid of Lu Lanhua? Enough! At this moment, Grandfather Yunzhong, who had been standing silently at the side, suddenly slammed the table and roared. Lu Lanhua immediately quieted down at Yunzhong's roar. It seemed that old Master Yun still had some authority. At least in front of Lu Lanhua. Chapter 70. Yunzhong's visit this time was to persuade Qin Yiru as well. His original intention was the same as Lu Lanhua's, to make peace. It was just that his attitude was not as firm as Lu Lanhua's. Just now, however, he had made another decision. His second daughter-in-law, Qin Yiru, had it tough marrying this unfilial son of his. She had never had a good day in all the years she had been married. Yunzhong felt sorry for Qin Yiru. She was such a good daughter, but after marrying this unfilial son, her life was getting worse. Hence, he decided to take a step back and let go. Yunzhong's words startled everyone. Qin Yiru did not expect her father-in-law, who was usually taciturn, to be the one who stood up for her in the end. She felt a warmth in her heart. She made up her mind to take Xiao Jian and Xiao Yi away to live a good life. She would not forget to come back and visit her grandfather. What? I don't agree. I won't let her take my grandson away no matter what. Of course, Lu Lanhua was unwilling to do so. She glared at the two women with bulging eyes. You damned old hag, shut your mouth. We owe Yiru too much. Do you want me to feel guilty for the rest of my life? Yunzhong slammed the table a few times as she roared at Lu Lanhua. She was so close to slapping Lu Lanhua's face. Lu Lanhua was still afraid of the old man's rage. Despite her rage, she kept her mouth shut reluctantly. Yunzhong took a few breaths to calm his tone before looking at Qin Yiru and Yunjian with a sigh. Yiru, when Yungang, this unfilial son, comes back, go and settle the divorce procedures. You can continue living in this house for now. Sigh, what a sin, what a sin. As he sighed, Yunzhong dragged his heavy body and walked out slowly. Yunzhong was going home. Just as Yunzhong stepped out of the house, Lu Lanhua turned to glare at Qin Yiru. Scram if you want to. This house belongs to my gang, With that, she glared fiercely at Yunjian before following Yunzhong out. Yunzheng was the most embarrassed. He didn't know what to say, so he just smiled helplessly and left. Only Qin Yiru and Yunjian were left behind. Mom! When Yunjian saw that those people had finally left, she gently patted Qin Yiru's shoulder and gently comforted her. Yunjian hugged Qin Yiru and comforted her in a low voice. "Mom, we've survived all those tough times in the past. As long as you, my brother, and I are still around, what difficulties can't we overcome?" Qin Yiru did not say anything, but Yunjian could feel that Qin Yiru's tears had wet her shoulder. "As long as we're still here, what difficulties can't we overcome?" Yunjian planned to use this opportunity to move her home to Longmen City and leave Xinjiang town for good. Of course, this plan was not far off. The monthly exams would be held on Monday and Tuesday next week, while the basketball match was scheduled for Friday morning. Many students in the class wore a long face as the monthly exams approached. If they did not do well in the monthly exams, they would be reprimanded again when their parents found out about the results. Therefore, the students were reading aloud in their revision books before the exams began. "Xiao Jian, how's your preparation going?" Lu Fian looked at Yun Jian with a troubled expression, feeling a little nervous as the exams were about to begin. "No problem," Yun Jian replied. It was fine if she did not prepare. After all, this level of paper was a piece of cake for her. Everyone knew that Yun Jian's grades were at the bottom of the class. Every time the exams came, Yun Jian was the one who was most troubled. Yun Jian's "no problem" attracted a lot of attention from the students. However, Wang Ruru heard Yun Jian's words. She was still holding a grudge about what happened last time, so she could not help coming over to mock Yun Jian when she heard that she was "no problem" with her studies. Chapter 71. Wang Ruru's sarcasm did not change Yun Jian's mood at all. Yun Jian curled her lips and said, "Thank you for your kind words." After a pause, she added, "I'll return the same words to you." "You?" Wang Ruru did not expect Yun Jian to refute her. She bit her tongue in anger. Then, Wang Ruru thought of something. She chuckled and looked at Yun Jian with disdain. "Ha, so what if your mouth has become better? If you have the ability, you can get the same results as me." Yun Jian knew early on that the original owner's grades were very poor. She was at the bottom of the class and could even be ranked at the bottom of the school. Although Wang Ruru's grades were not the best, she could still be ranked in the top 10 of the class. Wang Ruru was certain that Yun Jian's grades would not improve, so she said those words. "Then wait and see. Now, please move aside because you're an eyesore." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked into the distance. When Wang Ruru heard that, she stomped away angrily. However, she thought to herself, when the results of the monthly exam are out, you can hide in a corner and cry. Once Wang Ruru left, Yun Jian's ears finally quieted down. The exam began very quickly. After Yun Jian received the test papers, she was not in a hurry to start writing. For every exam, she only used 10 minutes to finish the test papers and then lay down on her seat to sleep. The invigilator was already used to these students with poor grades sleeping in the examination room and pretended not to see it. When Wang Ruru saw that Yun Jian only started writing, her smile became even more obvious. Look, she was so good just now, but didn't she only write for 10 minutes and then forget how to do the test papers? Haha, it's most likely because the questions are too difficult and she can't do it. Wang Ruru did not know that Yun Jian only used 10 minutes to finish all the test papers. There were monthly exams on Monday and Tuesday. After all the test papers were collected, the teachers were not in a hurry to mark the papers. Because this monthly exam was a joint examination between the 5 schools, all the test papers would be submitted to the higher-ups for marking after they were bound. Therefore, the results were released a few days later. Friday. Early in the morning, the breeze blew gently, and the morning sun was very warm. A layer of golden sunlight shrouded Yunjian's body. Yunjian's hair was tied into a high ponytail today, looking spirited. She clasped her backpack on one shoulder and walked into the classroom with a relaxed expression. Li Xiangyi's shout came from behind, "Yunjian, hurry up and go to the playground. The basketball game is about to start. Those little bastards from Dongjiang Town have been waiting at our school's playground for a long time. We can't lose momentum first." Yunjian pursed her lips slightly. She didn't respond to Li Xiangyi directly, but took action instead. At this moment, Yunjian was standing at the door of the classroom. When she heard Li Xiangyi's words, she grabbed her bag and threw it at her desk a few meters away. Every throw was a hit. She tossed her bag onto her desk from the classroom door and turned to follow Li Xiangyi to the field. A group of students were left in the classroom. "Oh my god, Yunjian is so cool." After a moment of silence, some boys in the class could not help but exclaim. "Previously, I looked down on Yunjian for representing our school in the basketball game, but after what she did just now, I'm convinced. Let's go to the field and cheer for Yunjian." The group of boys in the class rushed to the field noisily. Lu Fian also found a good spot on the field and waited to cheer for Yunjian. The basketball game between Xinjiang Town High School and Dongjiang Town High School was held at Xinjiang Town High School. Because it was held at their school, almost all the teachers and students in the school gathered at the field. Chapter 72. The captain of Dongjiang Town High School's basketball team, Zhang Jun, had brought his team to the field early in the morning. The moment he saw Yunjian, he smiled so widely that his eyes narrowed into slits. This time, with Yunjian in Xinjiang Town High School's team, Dongjiang Town High School would definitely win. A girl playing basketball. Ha, this must be a joke. In fact, Zhang Jun was not the only one who thought so. Most of the teachers and students in Xinjiang Town High School were worried as well. A girl playing against Dongjiang Town High School's basketball team was something that had never happened in recent years. After all, it was a fact that girls' stamina was not as good as boys. Could their school still win? However, everyone continued to watch with anticipation. Show! At that moment, the referee blew the whistle. Both teams took their positions. This time, there were 3 rounds in the basketball game, and the winner would win 2 out of 3 games. In other words, if either side won 2 games first, they would win. Unlike the other panicking basketball players, Yunjian was in good condition. She did not show any signs of panic just because it was a basketball game. In this basketball game, as the only girl on the court, Yunjian naturally received everyone's attention. I now announce that the first round of the annual friendly basketball game between Xinjiang Town High School and Dongjiang Town High School has officially begun. Players, please get ready. Ready. Show. After the referee finished speaking, he blew the whistle that signified the start of the game. Go for it. Yunjian. Go for it. Yunjian. As soon as the whistle was blown and the game began, a deafening and rhythmic cheer erupted. All the teachers and students looked up in surprise in the direction of the sound. They saw the entire grade 12 class 6 cheering for Yunjian rhythmically. The sound echoed through the clouds. At that moment, on the basketball court, Yunjian's thin figure ran out like a bolt of lightning the moment the game began. The basketball in her hands seemed to have a life of its own as it moved nimbly. Seeing that Yunjian was getting closer and closer to the basketball hoop that they were guarding, Zhang Jun looked at her in fear and shouted at his team members, "Stop her! Stop her!" Zhang Jun did not expect that Wen Rui would actually let Yunjian play such an important first serve. What was even more unexpected was that this young lady whom he had looked down upon for half a day, actually had such speed. Closer, even closer. Looking at the two opposing basketball players who were blocking her way, Yunjian suddenly flashed a smile. There was a rule in a basketball game. When dribbling, the basketball had to be bounced continuously. One could not run while holding the ball. But do you think you can stop me like this? No way. Yunjian grinned. She tapped the basketball in her hand. The basketball bounced up and down and rolled between the two opposing basketball players who were blocking Yunjian. It was so fast that no one could react in time. Just as the basketball used the rebound force to pass between the two opposing basketball players, Yunjian also ran towards the two players. Is she crazy? Was he going to throw the ball directly to the opponent? We're going to lose, we're going to lose. The people who were watching the game exclaimed. However, in the next moment, Yunjian was in front of the two opponents. She kicked hard on the ground and leaped up. Then, a scene that no one had ever expected occurred. Yunjian did a 2-meter somersault and went over the two opposing basketball players. She landed steadily. At that moment, the basketball followed its trajectory and passed between the two basketball players. Yunjian patted it in her hand. Seeing that scene, everyone who was watching the show opened their mouths wide. There was silence all around. There was only one thought in everyone's mind. Oh my God, you can even play basketball like this. Oh my God, this girl is actually so strong. Simple complaint, oh my God. Chapter 73. Paw. Just as everyone was stunned by Yunjian's somersault and the precision of her technique, the sound of a basketball landing on the floor after it had entered the basket was heard. Yunjian reversed the ball and scored easily. The referee blew the whistle. Xinjiang Town High School won the first round. The crowd went wild. They won. They won the first round. The first round of the competition had only started for less than 10 seconds, and he had already won. The person who ended the game so quickly was Yunjian, whom everyone thought would drag Xinjiang Town High School's team down. It was the girl from grade 3 to 6, Yunjian. After winning the first round, the second round soon arrived. There was no doubt that when Rui's team had Yunjian. Even when two opposing basketball players tried to stop her, she managed to evade them and shoot. How could they lose? In the second round, Zhang Jun's team lost their momentum first. Soon, Dongjiang Town High School's team lost 2 consecutive wins. Xinjiang Town High School's team defeated Dongjiang Town High School's team in seconds. This was unprecedented. Winning in such a short time was something that had never happened since the annual friendly basketball match between the two schools. Now that Xinjiang Town High School had won 2 rounds, there was no need for a third round. Amidst the cheers and applause from the whole school, Zhang Jun's team ran away with their tails between their legs. Yunjian, you're amazing. Hee, did you see how Zhang Jun ran away just now? TSK. Don't mention how funny it was, ahahaha. Wu Kuei and the rest walked toward Yunjian. Wu Kuei laughed heartily. Once he recalled Zhang Jun's arrogant face, he felt relieved. After so many days of interaction, they had already treated Yunjian as one of their own. Yunjian did not care about trifles. She did not have the gentleness of a woman. The basketball team treated Yunjian like a brother. We've won the game. Just for this, we should celebrate. Since it's Friday today, let's meet at the usual place after school. Although when Rui did not show his emotions on his face like Wu Kuei, it could be seen that the excitement in his heart was not small. The usual place naturally referred to the rock bar. I won't be going, Yunjian said with a smile and a press of her lips. How can you not go? You're our main character today. Before Wenrui could open his mouth, Li Xiangyi spoke first. My mom's bringing me to Longmen City tomorrow. We shouldn't stay out too late tonight, Yunjian explained softly. The few of them stared blankly for a moment before nodding in agreement. Qin Yiru was bringing Yunjian to Longmen City on Saturday morning. That was right. She could not stay in this house any longer. With Lu Lanhua around, Qin Yiru and the other two would have to move out sooner or later. Qin Yiru did not want to go back to her maternal family because she could tell from Qin Junlan's attitude towards her. Coincidentally, Qin Yiru had a close friend in Longmen City who was a high-ranking official. Now that she had nowhere else to go, Qin Yiru thought of going to Longmen City for help. They had not seen each other for years after all. Since Qin Yiru married Yun Gang, the chances of meeting her friend had decreased. She did not know if they would still help her after so long. Her best friend was Qin Yiru's best friend when they were in high school. They were so close that they could talk about anything. Qin Yiru's results were excellent back then and she was admitted to DE high school like Yunyi. Chapter 74. Early the next morning, Qin Yiru took Yunjian on the bus to Longmen City. Following her blurry memory, Qin Yiru gritted her teeth and took a taxi to Longmen City's affluent street. Just as its name suggested, the people who lived here were either rich or powerful. Qin Yiru's best friend was a high-ranking official, so her family was rich. Qin Yiru was actually a little embarrassed to come, but she was now forced into a corner. She had thought of everything she could think of, so she could only brace herself and come to her rescue. Gritting her teeth, Qin Yiru made up her mind to knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Qin Yiru knocked for a while but no sound came from the house. Standing aside, Yunjian could not help stopping Qin Yiru's hand when she saw her mother pounding on the door with all her might, telling her, "Mom, the door is soundproof. You won't be able to hear us if you knock like this." As she spoke, Yunjian pressed the doorbell beside the door and smiled sweetly at Qin Yiru. That's how it should be. Oh, there's such a thing. Qin Yiru did not know about this. She was stunned before she nodded. Look at her. She was old and could not keep up with the times. Just as Qin Yiru finished, the villa's door was opened and a fashionable woman in her 40s appeared before them. The woman had a voluptuous chest and a slim waist. Although she was in her 40s, she took good care of herself. She looked like she was in her early 30s. In comparison, Qin Yiru had half a head of white hair while wrinkles crept up the corners of her brows. As she grew older, she was beginning to gain weight as well. Shaoruan. When Qin Yiru saw the woman for the first time, she felt a lump in her throat and called out. Yiru. When Dong Yuan saw Qin Yiru for the first time, she could not react in time. It had only been 5 or 6 years since they last met, but Qin Yiru had changed so much. Her face was old and wrinkled, and her body was getting fatter with age. How was she still the youthful, beautiful, and energetic girl? Dong Yuan felt a stab in her heart. She reached out to caress Qin Yiru's calloused hand. Her tears were about to fall. What's going on? Yiru, it's only been a few years since we last met. How did you end up like this? Dong Yuan's tears fell immediately as she spoke. When Qin Yiru thought about what had happened back then, she couldn't say a single word that she had prepared. She couldn't help but cry. The two old friends who had been separated for a long time hugged each other tightly. To explain why Qin Yiru was so out of control today, it all started back then. Back then, Qin Yiru decided to give up her studies and drop out of high school so that her brother could marry her sister-in-law and her sister could marry into a good family. Moreover, her family was not well off. As her best friend, Dong Yuan was strongly against it. At that time, she had a huge argument with Chin Yiro. In the end, Chin Yiro went back to town to get married. It was also from then on that Chin Yiro and Dong Ruon's relationship gradually faded. However, the two of them still kept in touch. Until 5 years ago, when Yun Gang lost a huge sum of money in gambling and was being chased for repayment. Naturally, Chin Yiru's family could not afford such a huge sum of money, so Dong Ruon paid for her family. Of course, Dong Ruon advised Chin Yiru to divorce Yun Gang immediately. She said that Yun Gang was unreliable. Chin Yiru refused and wanted to give Yun Gang a chance. Hence, the two of them had a huge argument. Although Chin Yiru had a weak personality, she would never turn back once she set her mind on something. At that time, Dong Ruon was forced into a corner and said, "If you continue living like this, Yun Gang, this bastard, will cheat on you sooner or later. When that time comes, it will be too late for you to regret it." It was because of this sentence that Chin Yiru and Dong Ruon suppressed their anger for a few years. Both of them were stubborn and neither of them was willing to give in on this matter. Hence, they completely broke off contact with each other from then on. Chin Yiru knew that Yun Gang gambled, but she always believed that Yun Gang would never cheat on her. It was also because of this that she continued to live with Yun Gang. However, she really didn't expect that Yun Gang would really cheat on her. Chapter 75. After listening to Chin Yiru's brief recount of what she had been through all these years, Dong Ruon was both angry and heartbroken. Dong Ruon's personality was different from Chin Yiru's. She was impatient in everything and was a classic career woman. Listening to Chin Yiru, she was gritting her teeth in anger. Yun Gang is a jerk. Yiru, I've told you long ago that Yun Gang and his family aren't good people. You didn't listen back then. Dong Ruon was actually quite pissed when she said that, but there was a hint of disappointment in her tone. Yiru, you should have come to me long ago. How can I not help you when something so serious has happened? Dong Ruon said earnestly. It was only then that Dong Ruon noticed Yun Jian, who was standing beside Chin Yiru. This is your Xiao Jian, right? She's all grown up now. I remember she was only 10 years old back then. She's grown up so quickly. She's in junior high now, right? Dong Ruon patted Chin Yiru's shoulder, not bringing up the sad past with her. Chin Yiru wiped her tears and smiled through them. Yeah, Xiao Jian is in Xinjiang Town Junior High School now. As she spoke, Chin Yiru patted Yun Jian and gestured to Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, she's Mom's best friend. Come, call her Auntie Dong. Yun Jian looked at Dong Ruon and greeted politely, "Hello, Auntie Dong." Dong Ruon's kindness to Chin Yiru was not an act. Yun Jian could see it in Dong Ruon's eyes. Eyes did not lie. Dong Ruon was genuinely concerned about Chin Yiru. Oh, good. Good. Yiru, your child is very sensible. Dong Ruon could not help praising with a smile at Yun Jian. After that, Dong Ruon and Chin Yiru resumed their conversation. The two of them hadn't seen each other for a few years, so they naturally had a lot to talk about. As she spoke, Dong Ruon turned to ask Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, since you guys are leaving that home, why don't you move to Longmen City? You can stay at your Auntie Dong's house. Coincidentally, you're in the 3rd year of middle school, and you're about to take your middle school exams. Your Auntie Dong will transfer you to number 1 middle school, okay? The teaching standards of number 1 high school are guaranteed to be top-notch." Chin Yiru had just told Dong Ruon everything. Since Chin Yiru wanted to divorce Yun Gang, her home was still Yun Gang's property. In this way, Chin Yiru had to find another place to live. Dong Ruon gave it some thought, thinking that her family was in trouble anyway, so she volunteered to have Chin Yiru and her family move to Longmen City. Chin Yiru was also very grateful for Dong Ruan's help, but they were old friends after all, so she didn't say much. Moreover, Dong Ruan could send Xiao Jian to Yi. Number 1 high school's teaching standards were quite good. It was the best junior high school in Longmen City. Many parents tried their best to send their children to number 1 high school, even forking out large sums of money, but it was all in vain. Xiao Jian's grades were poor, but she could definitely improve her grades if she went to number 1 high school. Chin Yiru and Dong Ruan had come to an agreement. Dong Ruan was here to ask Yunjian if she was willing to transfer to Longmen City. After all, the child's approval was very important. Transferring schools meant that they had to enter a new environment and reintegrate into a new group. Especially now, transferring schools in the middle of the 3rd year of middle school, she might not be able to fit in at school. Yunjian was taken aback. She had planned to move her family to Longmen City, but Dong Ruan's suggestion was a perfect fit for her. I'm okay with it. Yunjian nodded with a press of her lips. Thus, the matter was settled. Screech. At this moment, the sound of an emergency brake suddenly came from the courtyard of the villa. A black and dazzling limited edition sports car drifted on the spot and stopped right in front of the few of them. The sound startled Chin Yiru. Cars were rare these days, let alone a sports car. What's more, the car did an emergency drift just now and stopped in front of them without missing a beat. Yunjian narrowed her eyes in thought when the car door opened and a tall figure stepped out from the driver's seat. The person's face came into focus. Handsome, deep, and unfathomable. Yunjian was stunned when she got a clear look at the person. Chapter 76. Yi glanced at Yunjian with his deep eyes and was slightly taken aback as well. He was surprised that the girl he met by chance the other day was here, but his expression remained unchanged. As the tall silhouette walked over, Yi glanced at Yunjian with his almond-shaped eyes before moving his lips at Dong Ruan. Auntie. Auntie. Yunjian was stunned as well. The man's nonchalance after killing and forcing Enchantress who ranked 10th on the secret agent leaderboard to retreat the other day was proof that he was unfathomable. She did not know the man's identity. However, she knew that someone who could make Enchantress yield was definitely not a simple person. Such a person was actually the relative of her mother's best friend. As she thought about it, Yi had already walked past them and entered the door without looking back. Soon, his slender silhouette disappeared from everyone's sight. Dong Ruan smiled awkwardly at Chin Yiru and Yunjian and explained, "This is my sister's child. He's lived abroad for many years and has only come back for a few days recently. This child is familiar with people." "Yiru, don't be offended." "Why would we be offended? The child is quite handsome, he looks a little like you, Xiao Ruan." Chin Yiru was not offended as she covered her mouth with a grin. Dong Ruan and Chin Yiru soon brought up endless topics. Standing there, Yunjian was not in a hurry. She merely frowned slightly. She thought about it but could not figure it out, so she stopped thinking about it. In the afternoon, Dong Ruan insisted that Chin Yiru and Yunjian stay for lunch before returning to Xinjiang town. The mother and daughter could not resist her enthusiasm and stayed for lunch. After that, Yunjian did not see Yi again. After lunch, Yunjian and Chin Yiru returned to Xinjiang town. She heard from Dong Ruan that she would help Yunjian with the school transfer procedures in the next few days. She had a lot of connections in Longmen City, so she would inform Chin Yiru once the procedures were done. After that, Yunjian and Chin Yiru moved out of that house and moved to Dong Ruan's house temporarily. Yunjian could not tell Chin Yiru directly that she had the money to buy a house in Longmen City. All in all, everything would be fine if they moved to Longmen City first. Qin Yiru was reluctant to leave Xinjiang town because she was moving. She had been bidding farewell to her neighbors for the past few days. She even reminded Yunjian, Xiao Jian, your Auntie Dong said that the school transfer approval will probably be approved next week. You'll be staying in Xinjiang Town Junior High School for another week, so you should bid farewell to your friends properly. Don't forget to mention this to the teacher. Yun Jian nodded and replied, I know, Mom. She did not know how to bring it up to Lu Fian since she was about to transfer schools. Lu Fian was the original owner's best friend and she treated her well too. Yun Jian saw Lu Fian as a friend from the bottom of her heart too. Lu Fian would definitely be reluctant to let her leave. As expected, when Yun Jian told Lu Fian about it, the girl actually cried and laughed at the same time. Xiao Jian, it's a good thing to be able to transfer to Yi High School directly. Even the students at the bottom can get into the second best foreign language high school in our city. You have to study hard when you're there. Don't cry. Yun Jian did not know how to comfort her, so she passed Lu Fian a tissue to wipe her tears. In the end, Yun Jian winked at Lu Fian. Study hard and we'll get into Yi High School together. Lu Fian did not say that it was difficult to get into Yi High School this time. She clenched her teeth and smiled through her tears. Yeah, Xiao Jian, we can get into the same high school a year later. At the same time, in the office of the school building, one of the teachers, who was sorting out the test papers for the last month's 5 school joint examination, exclaimed in disbelief, full marks. Full marks again. This student from grade 12 class 6 had taken 4 exams and scored full marks in all of them. Oh my God. Chapter 77. In the classroom, Lu Fian had yet to recover from the shock. She pretended that she was not sad anymore because they had promised to enroll in the same high school a year later. However, how could she be truly happy when her best friend who had been hanging out with her for so long was transferring schools? In spite of it, she was still genuinely happy for Yun Jian that Yun Jian could attend Yi High School in the city. After all, a high school like Yi High School was a place that others could not attend even if they wanted to. It was great for Xiao Jian's future and her studies that she could attend there. Hey, the results of the monthly test for the 5 schools are out. I heard that the person who got first place in all 5 schools is from our school. A student who was more well-informed in the class boasted with his head held high, as if he was the one who got first place in the 5 schools joint test. As expected, the entire class's attention was drawn to the student's words. Hey, is that true? The first place in the test organized by the 5 schools is from our school. This has never happened before. One had to know that the 5 schools this time included number 1 middle school. Yi High School is the city's senior high school and they have a lot of top students. I heard that the best ones in Yi High School are close to full marks. Is there really someone from our school who can get first place in all 5 schools? You're bluffing, right? Unless there's someone in our school who got full marks in all the subjects. How can such a thing happen? Someone in the classroom did not believe it and retorted to the student who was well-informed just now. Pfft, you're right. This student from our school really got full marks in all the subjects. It's the talk of all the teachers in our school now. The student who had boasted just now replied boastfully. It was as if he was the one who had earned this great honor. In spite of it, no matter how well-informed the student was, there was no way of knowing who the student who got first place in all 5 schools and got full marks in all the subjects was. For a moment, everyone in the classroom was talking about this topic. Wow, Xiao Jian, that person is amazing. He got full marks in all the subjects. He even surpassed those abnormal geniuses in first high school. Lu Fian, who had finally adjusted her emotions, said a few words to Yunjian. Her eyes were still filled with admiration. Yunjian only slightly pursed her lips, a deep light flashing in her eyes. Ha, he got first place in the 5 schools, not the 2 of you. What are you so proud of? Wang Ruru was waiting for Yunjian's bad results to come out so that she could mock her. Otherwise, she would not be able to hold back the anger she had suffered before. Perhaps because LV Fian was Yunjian's good friend, Wang Ruru couldn't help but run over to mock LV Fian. By the way, Yunjian, I saw that you only spent 10 minutes on the test paper the other day. What were you doing? Was the test paper too difficult? Sigh, why don't you do the questions properly every time? How can you get good results with this attitude? Don't tell me you're going to embarrass our class again. Wang Ruru turned to look at Yunjian in disdain. Wang Ruru, do you have nowhere to vent your farts? I'm talking to Xiao Jian, how am I bothering you? LV Fian could not hold herself back and retorted on behalf of Yunjian. Chapter 78. What do you mean it's none of my business? Lu Fian, how can you say that? Wang Ruru was not a good-tempered person. She retorted immediately after Lu Fian said that. As she spoke, she sneered and said confidently, I'm the class committee member. Yunjian's grades are not good, so I'm here to ask her to study harder in the future. Is that wrong? As Wang Ruru spoke, she puffed up her chest as if she was speaking the truth. However, Lu Fian and Yunjian could tell that Wang Ruru was here to pick a fight. Hey, you! Lu Fian was also sullen. Before she could say anything, a classmate ran in from outside the door. The classmate said with a bitter face, the form teacher is here. The form teacher is here. She's still holding the Chinese monthly exam papers. Oh no, I didn't perform well in this exam. What should I do? Every time the results of the monthly exam were released, there were always some who were happy and some who were sad. There were students who did well, and naturally there were students who did not do well or did not perform well. However, some students who felt that they did well were full of anticipation when they heard that. Yunjian sat in her seat without any change in expression. Wang Ruru and Lu Fian's argument naturally stopped. When the teacher arrived, all the students ran to their seats and started class early. Teacher Jean was wearing a pair of old Beijing cloth shoes with a smile on her face. Even the nervous students could clearly feel Teacher Jin's happy mood. The results of this monthly exam are out. Teacher Jean stood on the podium and spoke to the class casually. However, her eyes kept glancing at Yunjian in the corner. Everyone knows that this monthly exam is a joint exam between 5 schools. It's very difficult. As she spoke, Teacher Jean narrowed her eyes and purposely kept them in suspense. There's a student in our class who did very, very well. Teacher Jean did not continue. She purposely kept them in suspense but did not point it out immediately. Alright, let's distribute the Chinese test papers first. Those whose names are called, come up and collect your papers. There's no ranking. As Teacher Jean spoke, she took out a large stack of Chinese test papers and called out their names one by one. Zhou Xiaoshan, 89 marks. Yang Lei 67 points. Wang Ruru has improved a lot this time. She scored 108 points. Everyone, please give him a round of applause. Teacher Jean continued to report. Wang Ruru, who had been called out, stood up. As the representative of the Chinese class and having been praised by the form teacher in front of the entire class, she instantly felt that she was very impressive. She raised her head arrogantly and walked towards the podium. Wang Ruru's full score for Chinese was 120 points. After deducting the necessary points for her essay, Wang Ruru's score of 108 points was already considered very high. When she passed by Yun Jian after receiving the test papers, Wang Ruru deliberately spread out the test papers so that Yun Jian could see the 108 marked on her test papers with a large red fountain pen. There was no need to mention how awesome he looked. It was as if she was afraid that others wouldn't know that she had scored 108 points. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.